What's up, deplorably dismembered Dexterites, police captains, and naval ship enthusiasts of the world? Welcome back to Fantasy Files Reacts, the show where we talk about our favorite shows, movies, and video games. I am your host, Spencer, joined by Nick Henderson from the Dexter Daily and the 4-Player Podcast, and the lovely ladies from the Dexter Unwrapped podcast to talk about Dexter Original Sin, the new spin-off show that gives us Dexter's origin story. We'll be talking about the grand finale for Season 1, and by the way, everything from the main series is fair game to talk about, so just be aware of spoilers in this episode. We'll be talking about Original Sin, the main series, and maybe New Blood will come up. As always, the links to our socials and stuff are in the description. We have Twitter down there, Discord, Patreon is linked as well if you would like to support us and either watch live or watch days or sometimes weeks before YouTube gets to see anything. And you can chat with us while we do the episode and bring in your own questions that we'll respond to. Also in the description is Nick's links to the 4-Player Podcast and his articles from the Dexter Daily. And now we will also have linked Dexter Unwrapped. They have a podcast on Spotify and I believe YouTube, right? It's also on YouTube? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'll have those links in the description so that you can check them out, and we will talk to them more about their podcast in a second. But without further ado, let's talk about our favorite serial killer.
Fictional serial killer.
Fictional serial killer. Yeah, we went through that last time. We were like...
we're not weird. We don't have like favorite actual serial killers. That would be strange.
Yeah.
Potentially, maybe strange, depending on your hobbies, I guess. But.
Right, yeah. Oh, but guys, we have reached the end of Dexter Original Sin, so cheers.
Yes.
Cheers to that, yes. Oh, there's my camera. Man, it's sad.
What a ride it's been, though. What an absolute treat that this series has been.
Absolutely.
But we will talk about that in a second. Let's introduce our guest, or guests, Dexter Unwrapped. We have Michaela and Brooke. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This has been awesome chatting with you guys over the past, I don't know who I've been talking to on Twitter. Michaela, okay, or yeah, Michaela. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Do you want to talk?
Join earlier, but yeah.
Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, it was kind of like, do you guys want to come this week? Do you guys want to come this week? Do you want to come this week?
You made it for the finale, so like
that's what matters, honestly. Yeah, because now you get to talk about everything. So yeah, do you guys want to talk about like what your podcast is and how you guys kind of like decided to start it and kind of where that came from?
Sure. I mean, we've been watching Dexter since 2014, probably.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I assumed you guys were new viewers.
No, not at all.
So that's cool.
So,
okay,
but that does suggest that you started watching it after the original show had already ended.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
I've probably seen it the original show probably at least 10 times.
Yeah. Same.
It's like it's my comfort food. It's like it's my
yeah.
background whenever I just don't have anything else to watch or just whatever. People are asked like, when was the last time you rewatched it? And I'm like, I'm always rewatching.
Always?
It.
Yeah.
Pretty much at some point.
Yeah.
I know. I'm rewatching it right now. I'm still about halfway through season 4 because I didn't get to watch it that much this week.
My favorite.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard. That's a good one.
Yeah.
It is a good one.
It is a good one.
Oh man, I love it so much. There's so many little moments that I'm coming across in my rewatch, and I'll text Nick at like midnight or 1 a.m. when I'm deep in an episode binge. And I'm like, remember when he did this? Like,
and I'm like, yes, I do remember. I always remember.
So good. So yeah, how did you guys decide to start your podcast?
I feel like we've been wanting to do a podcast for a long time.
Yeah, we've always been wanting to do something.
Yeah.
When did you start it?
Just for the
just for Original
this
Sin?
season, yeah.
This is our first time doing anything like this. So
okay,
that's awesome.
Cool.
But
It's been
That's-
really fun, though. It's been awesome.
Yeah, has it been like a little bit of a learning experience as you go? And
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Yes.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's always good to have a place to, be able to just like really, really nerd out about something
hmm
that you want to,
Definitely.
if I talk to people in like at work about Dexter the way I like truly want to talk about Dexter, they'd probably look at me like I was crazy. So it's good to,
yeah,
it's
I
good to
know.
have an outlet. Yeah.
For sure. That's really why we started the podcast. We would always talk to each other about Dexter, but nobody really enjoyed it like we do that we know.
Yeah.
We were like, man, we just need to start a podcast. And we did.
We just needed to get it out there and talk about it. So.
Yeah.
I'll
That's
tell you what, the gaming podcast that I've been doing since 2008, however long that's been.
yeah.
We recorded for like the first year and a half, maybe, with like we didn't have any listeners or anything like that. We didn't even know if we were doing it right. Like we didn't even know if we were putting it out into the world in a way which people could find it.
Yeah.
And we like it just blossomed from like I was having just casual conversations with my friend about games, and he'd be like, every once in a while he'd be like, we should have been recording this. I feel like people would want to listen to this. And I'm like, and then after like 10 times of him saying that, it was like, get a microphone.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Same thing here, pretty much.
Yeah, and I'm also a big fan of dissecting Dexter, and
Yeah.
I love listening to Gareth. So
Awesome. Yeah. That's fantastic. I submit my feedback to Gareth on dissecting Dexter every week. So,
Oh, nice.
which
Yeah,
reminds
and
me, I haven't sent mine for this episode yet. Well, I guess it aired last night, so I'm not really that far
Sure.
behind.
Yeah.
Well, you've been on dissecting Dexter, right?
Yeah, after the New Blood finale, I think is for the New Blood finale.
That's
Because
awesome.
he had like two or three other people on there. So yeah, I don't know if he's going to do that again for Original Sin.
That'd be
but
super
we'll
cool.
see.
That's awesome. Yeah, and then Nick also writes articles for the Dexter Daily, if you've ever seen that website.
Yeah, we love
Yeah, I do.
always keep us informed on
Oh,
the facts. We're on top of it.
awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I just do the reviews and recaps and occasionally like opinion pieces or whatnot, but
Wild theories.
that is largely like a one man operation, and he does like 95% of it.
Really?
In fact, he hasn't even watched the finale yet.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, and I'm like, what are you doing? Why haven't you watched the finale? And he's like, I'm posting articles. And I'm like, what do you mean you're posting articles? But apparently he's been having VPN issues because he is overseas, so he watches the VPN, and apparently his VPN shows yesterday of all times to like shit the bed.
Oh no.
So, as of right now, I still don't know if he's watched the episode. I've been waiting. I've been waiting for his like reaction. Like he'll usually message me after he finishes it. And I'm like, still nothing. All quiet on the Western Front.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So Dexter Unwrapped, are you guys? So what's the plan now after Original Sin? Are you guys gonna do episodes on the main show and then do like Resurrection, or what are you guys getting ready for?
That is the current plan. I think here probably in like 2 weeks we're gonna start in on New Blood. I feel like it would.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So
do the bookends. Start with the bookends.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
very cool.
That's good because you could probably, I mean, that's like because if you tried to do the main series, you'd probably only get like a season or two in.
Exactly.
Are y'all doing like
3.
once a week, or like what do y'all typically do?
Once a week, yeah.
Yeah, so if you try to do once a week on the original show, you wouldn't get very far before Resurrection started.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. What did you guys think of New Blood?
I liked it. I didn't really like the ending, but I had just
I think
all this new stuff. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That final episode's real divisive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I understand why. I mean, I don't hate it the way a lot of people hate it, but I totally get why it's divisive.
I feel the same way. I didn't hate it. I understood it, but
it's so wild to think about because like Clyde Phillips has talked about like after the fact, like after it was over and the backlash and everything. And he's like, when we did that, I was like under the impression that I only had access to Michael C. Hall for like a year to do the
Oh.
show, and it was like, so we were writing it and doing it. We had 10 episodes to like wrap everything up, and then that was it. We were never going to get another chance to do Dexter again.
Wow.
And then here we
man.
are.
Yeah,
here we are 3 years later, and there's like no end in sight.
Right.
Yeah.
So much Dexter.
Crazy.
It's what a time to be alive.
Yeah.
As a Dexter fan, like holy shit.
We were just saying
yeah.
this here.
In 2013, it was like, I remember the day the finale aired, and it was like depressing. I was like, I can't believe this is it. This is over. And then New Blood happened, and I was like, I can't believe we're getting another season. This is amazing. And then that ended, and I was like, here we are,
It's over.
all over again. It's all over again. And then I guess I'm gonna have to do that again someday. Whenever that happens. But hey, I'll take it.
It's so good. I've loved New Blood. I've loved Original Sin. It's been so nice to just get new stuff, and with a character that I love so much. Nick and I went down the rabbit hole last week about like Dexter isn't like a good person, but you still want to root for him, but he's also a good person sometimes, and he has a way of like being this person who isn't like human but shows you human moments. And it's such a like he is the epitome of a morally gray character.
Exactly.
And I think that's what I love about him so much, because I
think this episode not changed, but like helped
I agree.
develop my kind of like the way I feel about him.
Yeah.
As a character, in ways I wasn't expecting, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, because it's hard to tell people, like, when they ask what Dexter is about and you're trying to describe Dexter, it's not as easy as saying it's like following the villain's point of view, because it's not exactly. But
Right.
Dexter definitely isn't someone who is human like other people are human, and so I love that complexity to the character so much.
Absolutely, I agree. We were talking about that earlier, just how much gray area is in, all of the Dexter, everything that Dexter does is.
Yeah,
I think
it's never like pretty much all of his actions are like you can view them through like two different lenses.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that's what makes him an exciting character to follow. And I can't believe there's still going to be more. And this prequel series in particular, like, God, I thought, as a Dexter fan, I was like, oh my God, this is exciting, but like they're going to really have to like prove themselves here, because a lot of people aren't going to be willing to just jump on. And in a lot of ways, I was like, maybe the best case scenario is that I love it, but most other people are kind of like, eh.
Right.
But most people seem to be really into this.
Yeah.
I mean, it did an amazing job, I think.
Yeah, I never thought, everybody's like obviously so in love with Michael C. Hall's portrayal of the character. I was like, nobody's going to let anybody else take that role.
Yeah.
But
that was me, right? Like I would like when you first like Nick had like sent me a picture of like Patrick Gibson. He's like, this is the guy that's gonna play Dexter, and I was like, absolutely fucking not.
Who is this nerd?
Yeah, I was like,
her exact reaction. She's like, what the fuck is this?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It was so amazing, because like we had this conversation. I was like, when they announced it, I wasn't really sure how I felt, whatever, but I was like,
Sure.
After a while, I was like, and I was looking into like what he had done before. I was like, okay, I can maybe see it. We'll see what happens. And then it was the day that they released like the first official like still shots of the show.
yeah,
And it was a shot that we now know is from episode 3, where he has Tony Ferrer on the table or whatever in that big like gymnasium or whatever you want to call that place.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a faraway shot, but I texted Spencer that picture, and he was like, "What episode is that?" I was like, "Is this? No, you said, is this Michael C. Hall?"
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And I said, "No, that's Patrick Gibson." And he was like, "Holy shit!" And I was like, "Yeah,
That's
dude,
right.
I don't know. Like, I feel so much better about just after seeing him for the first time, especially seeing him in like a kill room and stuff." I was
like in the apron and everything. It's like, oh,
and then the shot of him just like sitting in the bleachers, like doing like this whole thing, and I was like,
yeah.
Where was
I'm
that
here
in
for
the
it.
season?
Episode 3. That was when Tony Ferrer wakes up on the table, and he's like, he's just sitting in the bleachers waiting for him to wait. It was before he did the Harry told him to use the smelling salts to like wake him up. So he just had to wait for people
yes. That's
You'd
right.
think he'd like slap them across the face until they woke up, because I feel like that would ultimately have worked.
Yeah, it's funny thinking about him just like waiting.
Yeah, I feel like so many plans could have gone horribly wrong.
Yeah,
because of having to wait.
I mean, but one of them definitely did.
That's true. That is true. Yes.
Well, before we talk about this finale and kind of the rest of the season and stuff, Nick, do we have any Dexter Resurrection news?
Yes, there was casting announcements this week. A lot of people whose names I cannot remember because I don't really.
They're not.
I recognize a couple of them, but they're just in general. Their names are hard to remember.
We got Dinklage confirmed.
Oh my gosh.
Peter Dinklage is confirmed. That one's been like basically
known,
all but confirmed for like a month, 2 months, maybe. I don't know. So it's good that they finally confirmed that. But they got 4 new cast members this week. I'm gonna butcher this name. I'm so sorry. Intare Guma Mbaho Mebwini? I'm so sorry. That's probably a terrible job pronouncing his name.
That's okay.
Katia Saraf, Dominique Fumusa, and Emilia Suarez have all joined the cast.
All right. Okay.
Intare is going to be a rideshare driver. Katia Saraf is a detective. And Dominique Fumusa is her partner. And Emilia Suarez is playing a character that Harrison is going to be working with at the Empire Hotel.
Interesting. So do we have any leaked like season description or anything?
No. None of that, which is kind of shocking. I mean, we know Peter Dinklage is playing like a billionaire philanthropist, it's weird. Like Deadline has reported that he's playing the villain, but none of like the official stuff coming out of like Showtime or anyone talking about the news has referred to him as a villain. And they also said that he's on as a series regular, which the language tends to be important.
Yeah.
Like special guest stars usually end up being villains because they're dead by the end of the season. So they're just there. They're in and out really fast. And he is not being credited as a special guest star. But Uma Thurman is credited as a special guest star.
Oh.
So maybe she's the villain, and maybe they're doing a switcheroo on us here. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It would be so funny to see Peter Dinklage on his kill table. Though.
It would probably be one of the most amazing kill scenes ever. Like, and I feel terrible saying that because we all know why why it would be hilarious and why it'd be great.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Peter Dinklage is aware of this, keenly aware of this.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he'd be game. So,
Yeah, for sure.
I still hope that's what's happening here. And there's also, you got to take some of this with a grain of salt because you never know, like, if they're trying to, like, they're choosing their wording carefully to try not to give too much away. Sure.
But,
like, I still remember when New Blood was first announced and they just mentioned that they were like, Clancy Brown has been hired, and they didn't say villain or anything like that, but they were like, he's a special guest star and he's playing the unofficial governor of Iron Lake or whatever. And I was like, that guy usually plays a bad guy, and that sounds an awful lot like he might be a bad guy. Yeah. So I don't know if I'm necessarily getting the same vibes here with Peter Dinklage, but
sure. I don't know. I've loved like all of his performances though. Peter Dinklage.
He's incredible.
Yeah. I don't know if I care for him like as a person, but all of his performances have been amazing.
Him and Michael C. Hall on screen together in a kill scene.
Can you imagine? Oh my god!
I mean, when Original Sin was like when the casting for Original Sin happened and they announced Patrick Dempsey, I was like, I want to see that dude on a kill table.
Yeah. Oh, it did not
and that was
disappoint.
me, and that was me. Like, I didn't have any idea he was actually going to be the villain, but I was like, please, God, let him be the villain, because that would be such a fun kill scene.
What did he say? What did he say in episode 9? That was just the best line delivery I've ever heard.
Patrick Dempsey?
He sounded so manic and so crazy. He's like, "I am the good guy." Like, dude, that was such a good line.
I'm a fucking hero.
I kept hitting that like 10 seconds back to watch that. I am the good guy. Just like sounds so insane.
Yep.
He really impressed me. The last probably 3 or 4 episodes, I would say.
Yeah. He was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
He was amazing.
We got 2 kill table scenes with him. Like,
We did. We get 2 kill table scenes. I think. Actually, I don't know which one I liked more.
I think I like the one in episode 9.
Yeah, that's the way I'm leaning that way too.
But I think a lot of that had to do with just kind of like the set pieciness of it, like the arcade, the lights, there was more time, there was more dialogue between the two. The cutting off of the finger thing was fantastic. It was,
so good.
And like I got the sense in this episode when they finally got to that point, it was like this one's going to be a little bit shorter because I feel like they got a lot of it out of their system.
Right.
Last time.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I'm so
still
surprised.
A great scene, though.
I'm so surprised that nothing happened with the finger. Like they put such an emphasis on that, like showing it that he like brought it with him and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, so are we just forgetting about that? But
Nick, I was going to ask you about your theory. What was your big theory?
Yeah. What was your theory, Nick?
my theory was, and to preface this, I think they were doing a really good job of a lot of misdirection with this whole season, I think. And there was an interview with Molly Brown a few weeks ago where she said something along. It was right after the episode where we found out that Spencer was the bad guy. And Molly Brown did an interview, and she's like, "Y'all have no idea. It's even crazier."
Yeah, I mean, the whole cast has been hinting at big twists, and I thought something was coming.
And I think what she was actually alluding to was something that we talked about weeks ago, which, well, maybe she was talking about Bryant, but I think she was more alluding to, because she was talking specifically about Spencer, and she was like, y'all don't even know the half of it when we're talking about it. And I think she was talking about the fact that his whole motivation being that like his son wasn't really his son. I think that was the big twist, when that was the thing that the moment he said, "You've been fucking my wife for 14 years," I was like,
yeah,
that kid ain't his.
Here's my problem with that twist is they literally never showed proof of that. Like, unless I completely missed something.
I don't think you need the proof. I think the proof is he knows the truth, and that's the whole motivation for doing this whole thing. Like in this episode, he flies off the handle. Yeah. And he's like, "You told me he was my son," and clearly he found out he wasn't his son, and that's probably what set him off in the first place. But anyways, my theory was crazy.
Yes.
My theory was that they were building towards, like, it was. This is insane. I know. I thought they were building towards Spencer was going to have a twin brother, because they kept saying like even when he got him on the kill table, he said, "You've got the wrong guy," and then they kept making this point of like,
it was convincing.
Dexter's in his face. He's like, "I didn't do it," and Dexter's like, "We all know you did it." And I was like, "Is this?" I feel like I thought the whole thing was building more towards he's going to realize he made a huge fucking mistake. And that's why the code is so important, because you have to be absolutely fucking sure you know what's going on before you get someone on the table. And then I still thought they were going to do it maybe while I was watching this episode, because when he gets onto the boat for the first time and he's like listening and you can hear like the footsteps and he sits like he starts going one way and then he like stops and like listens and you hear footsteps in another place. I was like, is he hearing 2 sets of footsteps and he doesn't know what's going on? But no, he was just hearing echoing.
So good.
So I was like, I don't remember where it was, but at some point I was like, no, it's not a twin. It's not a
Damn
twin.
it.
And I know it would have been fucking batshit insane, but I was like, I feel like they probably know they had to go big. Like they had to do something to prove this was like not just more run-of-the-mill Dexter. They had to do something like super bold. And they didn't do it. But I still think the episode turned out great, so, whatever.
Yeah.
It was still great. It was definitely I wouldn't even be so uncharitable to say run of the mill Dexter, but it was what you expect.
There was
from
a small
Dexter.
tinge of disappointment after I first watched it, because I was like, it really was Dexter saves the kid, kills the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Everything gets kind of tied up with a nice bow,
Yeah.
which is fine, but it was not like last episode of season 4,
Right.
mind blowing,
Right.
which
Yeah.
I kind of thought is what they were going for. I thought they were going to pull like a Rita in the bathtub situation and be like, boom, there's 2 of them. And that's why I thought the pinky was so important. I thought he was going to end up in a situation where there's 2 of them, and he's like,
one has the pinky
and one
one
has
doesn't.
or he's going to end up seeing him and realizing like, why is your pinky magically reattached? Like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Like, that's why I thought the pinky was going to be important.
Yeah.
It wasn't. So, you know,
That's cool though.
Yeah.
Really.
thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. But you know what? I think it says a lot about like the season. Like I feel like one if I had to like complain about New Blood in any way, really, it's that like I feel like kind of the guesswork, like the trying to figure out what was going to happen next, kind of stopped after like episode 4 or episode 5, whatever it was, when we found out that Clancy Brown really was the bad guy, or whatever, and they stopped giving us red herrings and stuff, and it was just kind of like,
Right.
Yeah.
okay. So I feel like this season kind of kept me like on
Guessing.
kept me on my toes for almost the entire season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
It really did. Even when you and I, Nick, had talked when it was the episode that we found out that, or Dexter finds out that Spencer is the killer.
Mhm.
And I was really disappointed with that episode because I'm like, well, I don't really like how we found out, but also it's like now we know, so there's no mystery. But the next,
But imagine if there
Like-
was. Oh my
I know. I'm
What
sorry,
if it was?
Nick.
What
I'm
if
sorry.
everything we thought to be true wasn't true?
Yeah, it would have been awesome. It would have been so cool. But the show actually surprised me because all of the episodes after that one were like my favorite episodes of the season.
Nice.
Like the last 3 episodes were like each episode got better and better and better to where now I'm like the finale is like the best episode of the season for me. But I was saying that all along the way for the final bits of the season. So
I have 2 questions for
Mhm.
the Dexter Unwrapped ladies.
Mm.
What was your favorite episode of the season?
Yes.
If you could pick one. Now that we've seen them all.
Mine was probably
8 or 9
yeah.
for sure.
Let's say
Yeah.
Okay. 8 or 9.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are saying 8, and I totally see why. 9 had the kill table scene, which I thought was
What did
it
you
had
guys?
the blood drive scene and the kill table scene. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this
Yeah.
is maybe this
So
is-
good. What did
maybe
you
a double
guys think
whammy.
of episode 5 when he had Harry on his table?
Incredible.
I think that might be my favorite episode from just like a writing standpoint. Just
Mhm.
Sure.
like because you you had him putting Harry on the table, which I did not see coming. I don't know how I didn't see that coming, but I
at all.
No.
fucking huge surprise, and still one of the coolest scenes of the entire season. Maybe one of the like genuinely like coolest unexpected scenes of the entire series. Like
Yeah, so
I
much.
never thought that was gonna happen.
Yep.
And then it had like all 3 of them going to Doris's grave and having their own kind of like little
Yeah.
moment at the
That was
grave,
pretty
which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, episode 5 might be my favorite from like a writing standpoint, but it's hard to compete with the last
It was the first
2 or 3 episodes.
it was the first episode where he really felt like Dexter. Like he really
Yeah.
felt like, okay, now we're getting Dexter how we've come to know him.
Yeah. My second question for y'all is: do you have a favorite season of the original show? And maybe I should preface this by saying, what if I told you couldn't say season 4?
Ah, shit. 'Cause
Yeah.
I was season 4.
I really love season 3 as well.
Yes, me too.
Yeah,
Season 3 is
nice.
I love Miguel.
Mhm.
I think that's such an underrated season. I love hearing Miguel get some love because
Yes. Yes, that was
Jimmy
great.
Smith is amazing.
He's so good.
Yeah, I think him and I don't know. My favorite villains are probably Jimmy, and then I love Trinity, and then Kurt. They're probably my 3 favorites.
Yeah.
I do think Kurt was really good.
Wow, Kurt ranks. Okay.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be in my top 3. That's funny.
Yeah.
What would mine be? I think
I don't know. You're in the middle of a rewatch, so maybe you should wait until after you finish your rewatch to decide.
I know. Off the cuff, I would say maybe like Brian as number 1.
Yeah.
He is good.
And then Trinity. And then I don't know. Would you consider Dokes a villain?
Probably. I don't think I mean,
he didn't really do anything wrong.
Yeah, he's more of a. I would say he's more of like a. We can call it maybe like an honorary villain. Like he's certainly a roadblock. Like he's not.
Because I really enjoyed the back and forth with him and Dexter, and I wish that. I mean, I loved the way that Dokes went out, but I would have loved to have seen him kind of be there for another season or 2 before. I mean,
Lila is definitely the villain of that season.
Nobody
likes Lila.
I love Lila.
Yeah.
No, she likes Lila.
But like, I don't think I even like Lila from a writing standpoint. I thought she was just like a weird character. I never enjoyed her.
She is a left turn. She is a curveball. She is like you think about what they did. Like the reason I love season 2 so much is because after season 1, it is the most unexpected pivot of like how do you follow up Brian and the Ice Truck Killer?
Right.
Well, we basically blow the lid off of the Bay Harbor Butcher situation and introduce him to this like crazy lady who is crazy bitch, crazy English bitch. I don't like Lila, but I like Lila.
Yeah, I get it.
I love season 2 just in general, but I think my love of that season has more to do with just I've always felt like season 2 felt like they even though they got picked up after season 1 for another season, they felt like they didn't have much more in them because they were like nobody's gonna keep going with this for too long, so let's just do like the craziest thing we can think of right out of the gate, which is like he is the one being investigated. That's where they all it's gonna go there eventually, right? Let's just do it. And then they had 6 more seasons after that.
Yeah.
They did what they should have done in season 8 and season 2.
Right. Yeah.
I've also think it's funny. I've never met anybody that has ever said the Brain Surgeon is my favorite villain, but I bet they exist. I bet there's people. I bet there are people out there who would say that.
It's very interesting. The whole twist with the Travis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
that's another thing that made me think they were doing the twinsy thing. I was like, they kind of botched that twist a little bit. Like it was a cool twist, but I don't think it was done very well with Travis. Sure. And I was like, that was after Clyde Phillips had left originally, and now Clyde Phillips is back. And I was like, what if he's like, let me show you how it's done? And he's like doing like, I'm gonna do something. I'm not gonna do the split personality thing, but we'll do this.
Yeah, that would be super cool. Super cool. So
I'm gonna stop talking about the twin theory now.
So did both of you guys say season 3 for your favorite outside of season 4?
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's awesome.
That's cool. Yeah.
I love that answer.
I finished season 3 recently, and granted, this is like my 10th rewatch or something, but it had been like a long time since it'd been like years since I've rewatched all the seasons. Mm-hmm. And all the way through season 3, I was texting Nick like, this part's so good and this part's so good, and like the used car salesman, and then Ramon Prado where he's like, you don't have to kill the wounded animal, you take the thorn out of its paw. Like all of those, there's so many things from season 3 that I absolutely love.
I also like to go to bat for season 7, which I think is strange. I don't know. Like
which
love
villain
watching...
is that? Which villain?
I mean, there's not.
7?
It's Hannah McKay,
right?
Oh,
but I don't know if I call her a villain.
Right. I think I like season 7.
I thought the villain of season 7 was going to be Isaac Serco, and then he died in like episode 7, and then it was just kind of like that part of the season was over for the most part.
Wait, was it not? Was he not the big villain?
I mean, he felt like it. And then he died like halfway through the season, and then it was just not really about the Ukrainian
Interesting.
mob anymore.
Okay.
Which I thought was fine.
He
I mean,
he had a great ending though. He had a fantastic send-
ending, and the scene with him and Dexter in the gay bar together having that conversation was
Yeah.
like, I was like, oh my god, I love this scene so
Mhm.
much. I was like, Dexter, I've never said that. I was like, Dexter, don't kill him. I like him.
I know. Well, even on the ship or whatever, when Dexter finally does, there's almost like you can almost tell that Dexter didn't really want to, or no, he
Well,
gets shot.
He gets shot. Yeah,
right?
he just
Okay.
bleeds out.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
he takes him out on his boat and he just dies.
Right.
And he wants to go out where he dropped his boyfriend.
Right.
Which, I love that
So
season
good.
for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to season 7 now. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, let's get back to Original Sin. So we get Brian, a lot of Brian, not only this season, but in this finale.
Very Brian heavy, yes.
Yeah, and I know we'll kind of go scene by scene and talk about him more, but what did you guys think of Brian?
I think they're setting up a spinoff.
I don't think so.
I think.
I think that this is Brian's
Or season 2
origin story. Yeah.
I think it's
There's
season 2.
there's 100% a season 2. There's no way they're not doing it.
Yeah.
I was surprised they didn't announce it yesterday, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
I kept
Yeah.
waiting.
That's true.
I even messaged John from Dexter Daily at 3 in the afternoon. I was like, dude, have you heard anything? I haven't heard anything. Because sometimes he finds shit out way before, and he's like, I'm hearing rumblings, and I'm like, what are the rumblings? Nothing. Silence.
Okay.
So
Do you
I don't know.
think is there any way they don't do a season 2? Because I just cannot see that happening.
I don't think so. I mean, the end of this episode feels like very much like not the end. Like it very.
Right.
Yeah.
They feel. I mean, they could have just written it in such a way that it
Sure.
could be the end, or it could be set up for a season 2. But
Yeah.
I feel like it would be strange if this was the last prequel thing before the first season, because I don't know. I don't think Brian's story is not over, and I'm almost positive that the implication here is that Brian is going to be responsible for Harry's death.
Yes.
Maybe even Doris's death.
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah. I for sure think that he's going to be involved in Doris's death. Like 100%. I have no doubt.
Yeah. So I mean, and there's interviews like Clyde Phillips did an interview, I guess, yesterday or it was posted yesterday, I guess, for the finale, where he talks about it like there's going to be a season 2. He doesn't say there's a season 2, but he's like, he talks very much about the future and how there's so much more story to tell. And he's like, we're going to get to that point where he's wearing his Henley and he's like using the strings with the blood and like all. And I was like, so you're basically saying there's a season 2. You're just not saying there's a season 2.
Okay.
So it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Unless this was a total bomb, which I don't think it was. I don't think there's any chance.
No, there's no way.
I mean, by today's streaming standards, I don't know what their expectations are, but
it was getting a lot of buzz on the internet, so I doubt that it bombed.
It's critically really well received.
Yeah.
It's a miracle, guys.
Yeah.
It's a miracle.
And I think I think that Original Sin is going to be like a soft reboot. Like, not like a full reboot, but I think that Resurrection is going to end and Original Sin is going to keep going until we get to the point where
Resurrection
we're
is already confirmed for multiple seasons, so...
Resurrection.
Okay.
Yeah, when they announced Resurrection, they said it's multiple seasons.
Ooh, fuck. Okay.
So... this is not just another 10 episodes, then it's done.
Right.
And
Interesting.
Michael C. Hall is on the hook now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so
which
funny.
honestly, I think might have been they might have just signed up to do that because of the backlash to New Blood, where it's like, instead of trying to rush another ending in 10 episodes, let's spread it out and do a couple seasons, maybe 2 or 3. I don't know if that means 2 seasons or 3 seasons or whatever, but more than 10 episodes. So
nice. Well, Dexter Unwrapped, what did you guys think of Brian?
I loved him.
Yeah, we love Brian. He's my favorite, seriously. I loved it so much. I'm glad that they included all of the things they did about Brian.
And if we do get a second season, I would love to see it very Brian heavy, like him.
Yeah.
I think that's inevitable at this point.
Yeah.
Like seeing him weaving that character in and out of like, I think it's going to have a lot of interactions with Harry. Like Harry is going behind Dexter's back and like meeting with with Brian and shit, or like having like confrontations with Brian, I suppose.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this the other week where I was like, because we all know there's that right before Harry dies, he has that moment where he walks in on Dexter having just killed someone. And I was like, what if we're going to find out that Brian set that up, like set him up to like walk in on him?
Okay.
And I'm like, they're obviously, they have to build to that. Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's my hope anyways.
That would be good.
Yeah.
I loved everything with Brian. Like I remember, was it episode 1 or 2 where we see him for the first time?
2, and I'm really impressed that like even like I didn't even think for 1 second that was Brian until John was like, people will not shut up about this guy being Brian. I was like, what guy being Brian? And he like sent me a screenshot. I was like, that guy? And then I went back and watched the episode, and again I was like,
wait,
okay, there might be something to this.
Yeah, because I like messaged you on Twitter at the time, and I was like, dude, I think that's Brian, and you're like, no, it's just some guy. And then like a couple weeks later you were like, okay, it might be Brian.
It was super
great.
clever. It was like so, and the thing that like eventually made me like get on board for this theory was like the more I started thinking about that interaction, where I was just like,
how racist.
It didn't even make any sense. Who walks up to a stranger at a table in a restaurant and says, "Can I sit here?"
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
I was like, oh, and if that's the case, that's fucking brilliant.
So good.
Sure enough, that was a really long.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
The first time I watched it, I clocked it immediately. I was like, I think that's Brian. But no way did I think they would like dive in,
fully introduce him.
You thought that was just like a single like Easter egg thing there.
Yeah.
And I think that was actually really smart, because like it made people think that like even if that was Brian, it was very much like just a little hint, nudge for the fans kind of thing. Kind of like how you see the ice truck drive and like almost hit him on that one episode.
Yeah,
like it might have been something like that, but like, and then all of a sudden, like 7 episodes later, you're like, oh, no fucking way.
You're like, wow, Brian is straight up confirmed.
That was the long con.
Yeah.
It was done really well.
Yes.
It was so good. So we don't get our famous blood slides. We didn't get the blood slides.
We do get that really good shot though of him looking at a blood slide.
There's that one where he's like looking at it.
Great shot.
That was a beautiful shot too. Just like the way he like he's holding it, he's looking at it, and you can perfectly see. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
But again, that goes back to like Clyde Phillips saying there's still more, like you don't realize it really, but like there's still more steps you have to get to like until he's like really, as he even calls it a hit in this episode. He says, "I was almost my final form."
Right.
Which is like acknowledging that there's still things to be done.
Yeah.
Before he gets to that point.
Speaking of beautiful shots, though, my favorite shot in the entire episode is when he's got Patrick Dempsey on his boat.
Oh, I think I know what you're going to say.
And he says, let me see if I can find the quote.
Is it the knife?
Yeah, it's the knife, and
something about you failed as you failed as a father and a police officer and
as a human, I think he said.
As a human being, yeah.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is like, so he's holding the knife to him, and we see from like Patrick Dempsey's point of view, his reflection in the knife. He's like, you failed as like a police officer, a father, a husband, all this stuff. And he says, and as a human. And when he says that, it turns to Dexter's point of view, and we see Dexter in the knife. Like Dexter is essentially failing as a human.
There's some mean foreshadowing there.
Yeah. And I loved how like Dexter's, like the sliver of Dexter's face lined up with Spencer's. Like they like lined up perfectly.
I want to know how they did that. That was
I know. I'm like,
that was a
damn.
cool shot.
That is really, really incredible. Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah, Dexter holds up the knife like a mirror to Spencer, saying he failed as a cop, a husband, and a father. And when he says "and a human being," the perspective shifts to Dexter, whose eyes are reflected in the knife. What a fantastic shot! It was just beautiful. I was like, I kind of want that as a tattoo.
Do it.
Yeah. Oh,
Awesome. That'd be pretty cool.
yeah. And then also my last general thought here, I swear to God, it's like every episode I notice something about Patrick Gibson physically. I am a straight man, and I'm just like, God, he's so pretty.
Ooh, look at that hair.
He had such good hair in this episode.
Yeah. And this is also an episode. There was 2 episodes really where I was like, damn, he's jacked.
Yeah, for sure. He's so jacked.
It was the episode where they're getting ready for the date, and she's like, here, put this on. And
yeah,
and I was like,
oh wow.
And then in this episode, he gets like hit in the stomach with a freaking like fire extinguisher when he's fighting with Spencer, and I was like, damn.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been the end for me. That would
yeah, I wouldn't have been able to.
The show would have been over. But yeah, no, his hair was definitely on point.
Yeah, I noticed it especially in the thumbnail I made. I was like, God, his hair looks so cool there. Okay, so as we go into talking about, scene for scene, the episode is called Code Blues, and I'm curious what this referred to, because in Nick's theory from last week, he said, I think it's going to be like Code Blues, like he's going to realize that the code was like super important and that he hadn't abided by it. And so obviously, like, we have Code Blue, like, for Nikki, like he needs CPR and everything.
And Bobby.
And Bobby, yep. But yeah, what else did Code Blues refer to?
We talked about it earlier. We weren't really sure why they changed it.
Yeah, because before it was called Code Blues, it was called Born This Way, which would have made way more sense.
Yeah,
because he says, "I was born this way."
Yeah.
That was a great scene too, where I'm sure we'll get to it. But when he was like, "I was born this way," and then we get the flashback of like Dexter before he was ever like this. And Harry's like, "No, you weren't. No, you weren't."
It felt so.
Oh,
I almost
so good.
It was also, I think it was called Born This Way. I think obviously for that scene, and the finale of the first season of the show is Born Free.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which is describing Brian. He was born free, and now he, I feel like they were going for the parody there, and I don't know why they abandoned it.
They talk about Born in Blood a lot too.
Yeah.
In the first season. I thought it was, they were making, a parallel to that, but I'm not really sure they changed it.
It's honestly kind of a strange decision, unless they were just they thought maybe saying Born This Way was giving too much away, because they know there's people out there who like follow the development and see when the titles come out and stuff, and they're like, they just don't want to give anything away.
Yeah,
I don't know. And maybe they were trying to make people think Bobby was going to die. I don't know. I don't even know why that would have been that important in the grand scheme of things. So
interesting. Yeah, and so wait, so they say that Brian was born free, like he wasn't.
The first season of the show, Brian is when Dexter's first realizing that Brian is his brother, and he's like leaving him breadcrumbs, trying to like lead him to Deb, when he has Deb captive or whatever, and he leaves him that record playing at that crime scene, and it's playing that song Born Free, and he's thinking about like he was born free to be himself. So he's like it's showing Dexter like what their life could be if he would just stop following the code. He would just be himself.
I see.
Right.
So okay. Because I was going to say, like, Brian was kind of a psychopath from the beginning.
Yeah.
Which is another thing. They kind of, like, started to, like, suggest that, and then it became far less important when you started to realize, like, the impact that, like, the shipping container scene had on him, too.
Yeah.
And, like, how Harry yanked Dexter out of his arms or whatever. Like, he didn't seem like a psychopath in that moment. He just seemed, like, really freaking hurt that somebody stole his brother from him.
Yeah.
Like, literally.
Yeah. I think Yeah, I think it almost makes less sense to have him be like born as like a psychopath. I wish they had Brian and Dexter both on kind of like even playing ground, and then the shipping container scene is what impacted both of them, and kind of then their nurture rather than nature kind of took them in different directions.
Right.
I think that would have been a more interesting
Honestly,
take.
I think that's kind of what they did. I think the whole thing with him showing like pulling the tails off the lizards or whatever was really just to like show that Harry saw that,
Mm,
and that maybe shaped the way Harry reacted to the whole thing. Like why he thought
maybe.
maybe Brian couldn't be saved because he was already, even if that wasn't really the case, maybe he was just
Hmm.
a
It's a good
curious
thought.
kid.
I wondered why they included that. It didn't really seem to be pertinent. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was just for Harry, like just to kind of like make us try to understand where Harry was coming from and why he
Right.
like just picked up. But I mean, like he really just picked up Dexter because he was younger
Yeah.
and he literally can't carry two.
Yeah.
And Bobby just swooped in right behind him and picked up
Picked
Brian.
up Brian.
So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a thread I don't know if we'll ever really get the final answer on, but also in the grand scheme of things, I guess it's not super important.
Right.
Yeah. So we get this huge flashback. The whole episode starts with this big flashback, and we see them in the shipping container, and Brian is trying to console Dexter. Laura is just chopped up on the floor, which is horrifying every time I see it.
Yeah.
And we get Brian's inner monologue rather than Michael C. Hall's inner monologue.
That was weird.
And at first I was like, wait, who the fuck is that? And I was like, oh my God, it's Brian. And that was so interesting. I really loved that choice, and I hope that if we go into season 2, we get some episodes that are like Brian's inner monologue and then some episodes that are like Michael C. Hall's. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would be great.
That would definitely be different, new and different.
Yeah. It really spiced it up. I was like, man, that is so cool. And we get a flashback of a lot of things. So we get Brian being taken away from the Morgans, and he's like, isn't Dexter coming? She's like, no, he's going to stay here. I'm going to take you somewhere else.
I thought that was fucked up that he didn't even realize that Dexter wasn't coming until he was in the car.
I know. That's so fucked. And then we get the Kirstens, and we see that he's bullied right away. Their son, like, pushes him into a closet, and it kind of, like, activates this whole trauma. And then the mom, like, comes in to, like, try to get him out, but he's still in his, like, trauma mode, and he bites her arm.
Yeah, that's fucked.
Yeah. And then he leaves there, and he goes to the next house, which I don't even know if we ever got a name for, but he's bullied.
It was a group home.
It was a group home. Okay. And so, yeah, that dude, like, reaches over and, like, takes his food, and then he, like, puts a fork in his hand. Yeah.
Also super fucked.
Yeah. So,
but also maybe deserved. I don't know.
Maybe deserved, yeah. Taught him a lesson, I'm sure. And then he gets taken to, like, a legit, like, mental hospital, and they diagnose him with antisocial personality disorder. Some people say that he has psychopathic tendencies. He has a lack of empathy, no awareness of social norms, and will exploit and violate others. And some of this, like, I think all of that is true, but I think people probably weren't paying attention to, like, the circumstances that he was in.
It struck me as though he didn't necessarily, like, he was like, people say this about me, but he didn't necessarily buy into it.
Right.
Like, he was kind of like, it sounded very much like he was like, that's what people say about me, and I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
But, you know, how, as a narrator, how trustworthy is he, I guess?
Right.
Because, I mean,
Sure.
he certainly seems to show that he has no empathy when he goes off on his therapist.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, that scene was
Crazy.
Brutal.
That was brutal and, like, really impressive special effects.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like him when he's like crawling and like bleeding from his head. I was like, my wife was like, "Damn, That's they're like, that's some really good blood effects. And I was like, and then he like when he slams his head on like the corner of the desk, I was like, that looked really real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that was a crazy scene. And I think Nick, you and I had talked a couple episodes where I was like, who is Petrie? And this kind of like this answers so many questions. Like we see that he's kind of um
Kind of a dick. Like he's like,
yeah.
he says, I want to go see my brother, and he's like, actually, you can't. Like,
Yeah, like that's not a good idea. And
I think he even threatens to send him back to the hospital.
he does.
right, yeah.
Like, what kind of, like, how many people out there, like, if you're talking to someone who you yourself have diagnosed as potentially psychopathic, lacks empathy, who's going to sit there and be like, you can't do that?
Right.
It's a bad move.
Yeah, you would think there would be like security in the room or
Amateur hour.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, it's interesting because there's, one thing, just like the system, it's so infuriating. I grew up with sisters that had, we adopted them, and my mom also had like multiple foster kids and stuff in the house, and like it's the system sucks so much because we see from Brian's perspective here where like, okay, he got through the hospital, now he's in whatever place he's in, but he has to see this therapist, but the therapist holds so much power over him, like he can send him right back to the hospital. So Brian either has to play ball like to the T just so that he can get out of this whole situation, or he has to do something crazy like he did. And so you see what a bind he's in. He's like, I can't. He's like, if I start losing my temper, then he's going to send me back to the hospital. But
He seemed like he genuinely wanted to get better.
Yeah.
Like when he attacks Raul in the hospital, he's like, my therapist said I was supposed to be on drugs for the last 6 months, and I haven't been. No wonder I haven't been getting better. And I was like, he's like taking it seriously. Like he's doing what he thinks he needs to do to see his brother again.
Yep.
Which is admirable. Like this whole series kind of like
shine a new light on Brian.
Shifted the way I think about Brian.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me want to go watch the first season again and see how I feel about him
now. Yeah.
Now. I mean, obviously there's like a 16-year gap there, so
sure.
A lot of fucked up shit can happen in 16.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's one of the things I think is really successful about this series is it kind of it painted like all these major characters, Harry, Dexter, and Brian. I think about them all very differently. Not very differently, but differently enough that it's relevant.
Absolutely. Yeah. It adds depth for sure.
Yeah.
What do you guys, speaking of Harry, what do you guys think about, in the main series, Nick and I have been talking about this quite a bit, but in the main series, we see Harry telling, present day Dexter, like, you're a monster, like you can't have a family, like you can't have like, that's just not something that you're able to do. And then in Original Sin, we see Harry is like actually kind of a good dad, like for the most part, like
or
besides
at least trying.
He's trying, like besides like some questionable decisions, like he's not coming off as you will never be normal. You are a complete monster that is alien to everyone else.
Right. I never really thought about it that way, I guess.
Did y'all never look at Harry as like, did you ever feel like he was a villain in the original series? I feel like it's kind of, the jury's still out because some people will be like, no, Harry did the right thing. And some people think that he's,
I flip-flop
abusive.
Yeah. Honestly,
and I think a lot of that stuff in the original series where he's saying a lot of that stuff, it's either one, when he's younger than we see him in Original Sin, and two, a lot of when he says that it's like in Dexter's head.
He's
so it's ghost. Actually not real.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know. This show, Harry more than anybody, I think in this show is benefiting from added context.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would agree.
Okay, so then my last little note for the Brian flashback is, how is he not a suspect?
he took the. Well, he was not a suspect. One, because he ripped the calendar off of his. He took the calendar out of his that showed that he had an appointment with Petrie, so like nobody knew who he was supposed to be meeting with when he died.
Okay.
And two, the only other evidence they have is a box full of 300 potential suspects that he has notes on. You know what I mean?
Right.
And because it's the 90s, it's like I don't really know how shitty forensics was in the 90s, but it may not have been nearly as easy as it was
not
today to
really,
like.
I would imagine.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, maybe he cleaned up after himself really well. I don't know. Maybe he like wiped everything down. We just don't see that. I mean, 'cause, like, they do that with Dexter all the time, where it's like, he made a mess, but trust us, he cleaned it up.
Right. Yeah. You assume that he like went through and did his
Case
due
in
diligence.
point, the end of this episode.
Right. Right.
Because damn, he made a mess.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Dexter Unwrapped, I know you guys have about 10 minutes left. Do you want to talk about like whatever your favorite scene of the episode is? Is there something specific you wanted to chat about?
Oh gosh, I don't know. My favorite episode.
I really loved everything in the cargo ship.
Yeah.
I thought it was so cool. Such
Really
a
cool scene.
Yeah.
I liked him like he's like hitting all the pots, like he's just brazenly like I gotta get his attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a note somewhere in here. I'm like, why is he announcing himself? I still don't quite understand.
I think the concern was that he was like in damage control mode, so he went to Nikki because he was like, I got to get rid of Nikki now.
Yeah.
So I think the idea was, I got to get his attention to stop him from just going and killing Nikki and being done with it.
Oh, yeah.
Because then the first stop he makes after that gets foiled is, well, I guess I got to rush to my wife's house and murder her.
Right. Yeah.
Quickly and as messily as possible.
Whoa.
Which was that was also a really cool scene.
Yeah.
What was the plan? Like, was he gonna like kill her and then run, or?
I don't think killing her was ever the plan. I think killing Nikki was the plan, so that she would just be in agony, and he wanted to watch her suffer. But when Dexter got in the way of him just killing Nikki, he was like, well, fuck it, I'll just do the next best thing.
Right.
And he runs to the house and tries to very aggressively and blindly murder her.
Lost his shit. His acting was so good in that scene.
God.
I hated on him a little bit in the beginning of the season, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But that, I was just like, holy shit.
Yeah. You know what I kept thinking about? Like when he's like pounding on the door, he's like, I'm
Here's
gonna fucking
Johnny.
kill you. Yeah, well that. But I just kept flashing back to the first time we meet him at the end of episode 1, or maybe not the first time we meet him, but like the first interaction he has with Dexter is like he ruffles his hair, nice haircut. Oh, and I was like, oh my god, they've come so far.
They've come so far.
Now he's like scary.
I loved how in that scene, he's like banging on the door, and then all of a sudden he just like slumps down. Dexter's hit him with the M99, and he's like pulling him through the house. And as he goes by the living room, the TV is like, this person was found on a rooftop, like dismembered with a chainsaw or whatever. And Dexter like takes a second to like look and watch it, and kind of has this look on his face like, huh. And then just like keeps moving.
Interesting.
It was so good. It was just perfect, like facial expression. Like it said everything.
I think he's really lucky that. Well, I guess it makes sense that she didn't come out of the bathroom and like see him hauling him off. Because, like, let's be real. Like, I wouldn't be coming out of that room until the police arrived.
Right. Yeah. That was great, and just like the kill scene in general, just the back and forth was great.
That I don't know where that knife came from.
Yeah, it was like a machete.
What the fuck? It was enormous. I've like never seen it, and he's just like, "Oh, I brought this one."
Ladies, what do you think of Nick and I were talking about this. We've been talking about it for like the whole season, but every time he kills someone, the camera is like panned up to him and
Yeah.
you're seeing his reaction. Do you guys like this rather than the Dexter where it like pulls back and you see him like stick the knife in? Like, what do you think about this camera shot?
All right, say again.
I wasn't. I mean, it was all right, but I would prefer to see the kill. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought
Same.
they did it. They did it like twice, and I was like, okay, let's mix it up a little bit, guys.
Yeah.
And they did it a third time, and I was like, okay,
Mhm.
for this last one, please do something different. And they kind of did. Like they did it again, but then they immediately show like the aerial shot of him like bleeding
Right.
out, and then I was like, that was cool. That was brutal. I like that. But yeah, like, I don't know why, because like the show obviously has always had a history of like, it's not like super gory, but it usually shows the knife go in. Which this
Right.
sounds super fucked. This is like what I want to see, I guess. But like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
just
no,
was hoping they'd
I'm
mix
with
it up
you.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. And I think the first time that he killed that way, I was on board with it because, or at least the first time he killed and then we saw the camera aimed that way, I was on board with it because it's like his first kill. Like you want to see the look on his face when he does his first kill.
It's the where he closes the, like he pulls the ties and like closes the thing.
Yeah.
Which I was like, oh my god, what a nerd! Like this,
Yeah.
it's so goofy looking, but
Yeah.
So good.
and then they just kept going with it.
But like even with this one, it's like he still has the same look on his face where he's like surprised, like he's like shocked that he just did that. Like even with this kill in the final episode, like he brings the machete down, you're looking at his face and he goes, "Ah!" And then kind of like looks back at it. It's like, "What?" Like I don't know. Like
I don't think they wanted him to feel too experienced
Right.
Yeah.
with it at this point. Like it's still, still got to feel pretty new
Yeah.
or shocking, or
Yeah,
I don't know
and
how you
it's
want to put it.
messy, like the blood hits the lens and it's
Mhm.
Yeah,
pretty amateur. Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Which apparently that was not planned. Like the
Really?
blood
Oh.
getting on the lens, but they kept it in because they were like, that actually
That's
looks really
kind of cool. Yeah.
But like I actually loved it in episode 3 when he kills Tony Ferrer, because like when he does that and then like the intense blood splatter like
Mhm.
gets in his mouth, and it's like I was
Yeah.
like, that was cool.
Yeah.
And then
It's
when
like,
he
it's
killed
very
Levi
raw.
Reed, I was like, I feel like I've kind of been
Did we
cheated
need
out
this?
what would have been a cool
Yeah.
moment, but and then
And
I
it's
don't know.
and it's interesting to see him, like we're so used to like the knife that he uses, and he like brings it down with both hands and he like stabs it into the chest. But he's been doing a lot of like beheadings.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are we
Well,
getting so many beheadings?
You know what I will say, if you go back and watch the first season of the show, like that kind of thing that we associate with his kills doesn't even really start to happen regularly until season 2. I think
Oh.
like the thing where he like holds the knife straight over him and it just goes
Yeah.
straight down like cleanly. Like
Yeah.
I think the first time he does that, unless I'm forgetting one, is Little Chino in season
Okay.
2.
Huh.
But like season 1, he's kind of like all over the place. But I think that had more to do with like even the writers didn't know how they wanted to do this yet,
Sure.
so they were like trying to, like there's like the second kill that he ever does on the show is like super freaking weird. It's
Do you remember
like
what is it?
yeah, it's the guy who does all the snuff films, and like
Right.
he's like stealing copper pipes from that building or whatever, and then like
Yeah.
Dexter has like wrapped his whole head in like saran wrap, and he like comes out of the shadows, and like I was like,
Yeah.
maybe he was going for like the whole like snuff film, like I'm
Right.
like the like thing. I don't know, but it was. I always think of that and be like, I'm really glad they moved on from whatever that was pretty quickly, because it was very, very strange. And then a lot of the times he was like, he would stab them and he would hold the knife like this and just like shove it in very like aggressively.
Right.
So they were
Huh.
just kind of like all over the board. So maybe this is just an extension of that. Like even this
Right.
early on, he's still like, he doesn't really have a a ritual per se that he follows.
That's fair. Well, before you guys go, I wanted to ask, do you guys have any theories for Resurrection? Do you guys...
That was my next question.
Yeah, what do you guys think is coming up?
We talked about that earlier, and we're like,
no idea.
they could they could go anywhere with this.
Question. Because they've got to obviously get to a point where he's like running around in New York City.
Right.
Not in custody. So I don't know how... Will there or will there not be a time jump?
I say there will, yeah.
Okay. And I feel like the time jump has to be like linked to him being in like some kind of like coma or something. Like I feel like the only way this works is if he escapes from a hospital, because once he's like in prison, I don't think
getting out.
It's not going to feel very plausible that he escapes prison. I mean, maybe, I guess, I don't know, but I feel like it would be just a lot easier for people to like.
No.
Yeah, it would feel a lot more plausible if he was like in a coma at a hospital, like in the because they have wings in hospitals that are for like criminals and whatnot.
Right.
So like maybe he is in that wing under surveillance, being just in a coma, and then like he wakes up 6 months later and is like, "Now's my chance."
Right.
And he escapes.
Interesting. Yeah.
Although I feel like his muscles would be atrophied and shit, and he'd be like really weak.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, maybe they'll show that too. Maybe he'll be
like. But also,
like,
it's television, so like maybe who gives a shit?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, people just want to see Dexter get back to being Dexter. So like,
yeah,
I don't think people will really like give him too much grief if they just kind of like move past that fairly quickly. But I hope there's something plausible there.
Yeah, I hope that it's not like the first couple episodes are him in a hospital. Like I hope that pretty much right in the first episode we just get him.
I think it's gonna be just like they did with Original Sin, because like Original Sin, you like, okay, they have to show the Nurse Mary kill. They have to. For newbies, for it's an origin story, they have to. So like that's gotta be the first episode. And I feel like that the first episode of Resurrection has to be explaining how he's alive and how he gets out and where he's going and why.
Yeah.
So
did you guys see the Michael C. Hall interview where they're like asking him that, and he's like, "Well, it's very cold in Iron Lake." Yeah.
This coy bastard.
Yeah, this coy bastard.
There have been like lots of behind the scenes photos that have been taken. I don't know if you've seen all those.
Yeah, Harrison is like working at the hotel, and Dexter is like watching him from the car, and
or also
supposedly.
There's also shots he's like driving around like a Jeep that looks like some conspiracy theorist owned or something. Like it's covered in like weird ass bumper stickers and shit.
Mm-hmm.
He's got like alien stickers all over his car and stuff.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
Oh, and he's like there's a scene of him like walking out in front of this house, and he's wearing like a bathrobe. He looks like, I don't know.
I haven't seen this one. I haven't seen that one.
I'll send you the shots.
Okay.
He's like it's. I mean, it's just behind the scenes stuff, but like, he's just walking. It looks like he just woke up and went out to get the newspaper.
Oh, interesting.
It's which I assume. Like my assumption is he escapes and he stumbles upon this person living in this house, and he like kills him, and is using his house and his car as like a home base or something. I don't know.
Interesting.
I only hope that whoever it is deserved it. I mean, I feel like that's got to be part of it. And this is just I have so many questions.
Yeah. Same.
But that's what makes it exciting, I guess.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I kind of hope we get to the point where it's like the premiere is tomorrow, and I still have no fucking clue what's going on.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen. Like, I think we'll probably have a better idea of what's going on in the next couple months. But
when does it premiere again?
I mean, they're saying June.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So, which is a crazy turnaround time, because they didn't even start filming until January. Yeah. I mean, they're still going to be filming when this thing premieres. Almost. Yeah. Certainly.
For sure. For sure.
But.
Well, I know you guys got to bounce, right? You got a babysitter thing going on?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Real life.
Dang it. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I will make sure to have links to your channel and Spotify and everything down in the description.
I will be subscribing.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us.
Of course. Thank
Yes,
you guys.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's been fun.
You'll have to have us on Dexter Unwrapped sometime.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Because there's so much Dexter to talk about.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, man. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you. See you later.
Y'all have a
Later.
great night.
You too.
Okay, so after the big flashback with Brian, we go back to present day. Spencer is on the run. Dexter's following him. And then we get the Michael C. Hall monologue resuming.
Mm-hmm.
And we learn that Spencer had been keeping Nikki a half a mile from the station.
The irony here, or I don't know if that's irony, but it explains why he was able to like get to and from the police station fairly quickly and why it was so easy to like kind of like throw us off.
Right.
Like we see him here doing this thing with Nikki, and then like right after that we see him at the station, which I know they're not specific about how much time has passed in those moments, but it makes sense. It's just like he was able to just go back and forth very quickly.
Right. And what is the like a big naval ship, like an abandoned naval ship?
I don't know if it's abandoned. I think it might be decommissioned, or it might be just it might be one of these things where it's like it's not. It's in between uses or something. I don't know.
Sure.
I mean, I would imagine like when they're not being used, they're just sitting around.
Right. Right. But then it jumps over to Bobby's hospital room, and Deb shows up. Bobby's wife is there. They talk for a minute. And then Harry's been like staying with him for multiple days.
Yep.
And he gets called away by LaGuerta. LaGuerta was like, what did she say? It's something that, it was Barbara, whatever her name is.
Plimpton. Barb Plimpton.
Yeah, Plimpton.
Which he miraculously remembers that name. I mean, I guess it is linked to a fairly traumatic moment in his life, I suppose. And it is kind of a strange name you might remember.
Right, right.
And he is a detective, so you got to imagine he probably has a pretty decent memory.
Right, yeah, I think that's fair.
But then we should also hold LaGuerta to the same standards, and now she knows Brian Moser's name, so like...
Yeah. It's like, how do you not remember Brian Moser? And she's even like... She's really skeptical at the end of the episode, like when he tells Angel... Like, yeah, the NHI killer turned out to be nothing. Like, there's no serial killer.
That was a dick move. I mean, I know why he did it, obviously, but...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to, like... I mean, it's also one of those things that it feels like it's set up for a second season. Like, it's to drive a wedge between these two characters that is now their dynamic. He doesn't realize that she knows that he kind of
lied
threw
to
her
her
under the bus and lied to her. And she is going to be just super skeptical and probably passive-aggressive towards him, understandably so. So, yeah, I mean, this is just more evidence, I think, that they're planning a second season already.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So yeah, so then Deb sits with Bobby, and we can even skip forward a little bit to where she's like talking to him, and she's like, I don't know like what I'm doing with my life. I've had a horrible year. There's been like multiple breakups and everything with my dad and everything with my brother and mom dying. Yeah, and all this stuff. It was just such a great scene because she's like not talking. I mean, she's talking to Bobby, but there's no one there to like respond to her.
She's really just venting.
Yeah, and it was a great character moment for Deb, and you can kind of see that that's where she decides to join the police academy.
They gave Molly Brown a lot of emotional scenes this season. I think she did a really good job.
I think so too.
With all of them, yeah.
Yeah, I think she did a great job. We talked about Dexter following Spencer, and then he's making noise to call out to him, and then Nikki cries out for help, and Dexter hits the lights, and he says, I've always been more comfortable in the darkness.
Yep. Classic.
Yep. And then Harry sees Brian's work and keeps an eye out for him.
This was actually really clever. Like the way Harry kind of like figured out how to track Brian down very easily as he realized that Brian's been like watching the crime scenes from afar.
Right.
And obviously nobody else is onto this at this point. So he's like, he's got to be watching me now.
Right.
And where's the best, what would be the best way to get a vantage point on this crime scene? Well, you probably have to be up high. So he's like looking for him on the neighboring rooftops.
Yeah. It's super good.
I thought it was clever.
Super good. As soon as he spotted him, I was like, "Oh my god, here we go. We're getting our moment." Like,
I gotta be honest though, the one thing about this episode that I think kind of bugs me is that why the fuck was Brian wearing a hat at night, especially that like neon orange hat that he's been wearing? It just seems silly.
The orange hat.
I don't care. I don't honestly care.
Sure.
It's weird.
Yeah. It is weird. I think the orange hat was more for the audience to like pick him out amongst other characters. Yeah. But yeah, I totally get it. It's kind of like, okay. But yeah, he sees
or maybe
him
he
up
just
on
loves the hat.
Maybe it's his favorite hat. Maybe it's his
favorite
lucky hat.
It could have been worse. If you, it's not like he was wearing sunglasses. Like that would have been
sunglasses at night. Yeah,
I'm sure there are people that wear hats at night. So
do you not? Do you never go out to the bar in a hat?
I barely ever wear hats. So
oh really? Okay, I wear a hat all the time.
Not much of a hat person myself. So
okay,
so maybe I just don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Spencer fires a flare gun at Dexter and misses, and Dexter comes at him with a pipe. And this is a brutal fight.
Yeah.
And Spencer gets away and then grabs the pipe, and then he floods the room that Nikki is in. And there's this great dialogue between the two. That's your son, is he? He's a kid. He doesn't deserve this. Deserve has nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
That was a great line.
This is a really great line, really great exchange, but also a really great moment that kind of illustrated what kind of bad guy Spencer actually is. And it really is just as simple as like a normal guy turned just mad because of, just not being able to handle his emotions, I suppose, in a healthy way.
Dexter even says that. He's like, I know what it's like to have rage, believe me, but this is not the way to
Which is,
to deal with it.
That is irony. Like coming from Dexter, it says a lot. But I my favorite line, obviously, of this exchange is, "What kind of monster are you?" And he's like, "I'm going to give you a choice. You can either save him, you can come after me, or you can save him. So the question really is, what kind of monster are you?" And I was like, "Oh, that was it was a beautiful deflection and just wonderfully poignant." And then it sets him up to make this like really kind of defining choice. As a character, which is why I think I ended up liking this, despite the fact that I talk about the episode being kind of
playing it safe,
but like I think the reason why it ultimately works for me is, and it ties into like the conversation he has later with Harry at the bar or at the restaurant later, but he's given a choice between saving a life and taking a life, and he almost without hesitation saves the life. And it is a young boy, like it's a child. But I would imagine that if it was not a child, he might also be capable of making the decision to save someone else's life before taking somebody else's. Which I just thought was that's kind of the moment where I was like, this is like maybe one of the most important things this whole prequel is doing, because it's really driving home his worldview.
Right.
Which is why, like, I've always thought of Dexter as, I mean, I still think he's doing a bad thing.
Right.
He is not on the right. He is doing a lot of terrible shit.
Yeah.
But I now understand why he feels compelled to do it. And I think this moment kind of recontextualizes everything.
Yeah, I think so too. And, you can even in the way that he like gets down there and like gets him out, and he starts giving him mouth to mouth before they're even out of the water. Yeah, it's like, he's really trying to save this kid.
Yeah, it's not just about I got to do this because I have to like I have to be able to say I tried, you know, kind of thing.
Mhm.
It's like he was trying to save this child's life. Like it meant a lot. Saving this kid's life in this moment
Yeah.
was the most important thing. And then
Right.
when he does get him out of the
The
bridge
ship.
or whatever it is, he takes him onto the deck of the ship and he like lays him down gently and he covers him in a blanket and then he
Yeah.
shoots off the flares. And I was like, he's doing a very human thing.
Yeah.
He's about to go kill someone, but
Yeah.
like first things first, I got to make
Yeah.
sure Nikki's safe.
Right.
And that was really cool. I mean, we kind of see it a little bit in season 4 when he saves the kid that Trinity tries to kill. But this was like that moment, but like more amplified, I think.
Yeah.
Because that moment to me always felt more reactionary, and this felt more like him making a conscious choice.
Right. Yeah, this was very conscious on his part, and it was, like you said, defining. It really, you know, as we talk about the morality of Dexter, this kind of makes all the difference. Like even Harry later on, you know, it's kind of what leads to him being like, I trust you now. Like I'm with you. Like you went after the kid first. You made sure that he was okay, and then you know you didn't just go to your base desires first.
And it ties directly into my favorite line of the episode, which is kind of like the summary of like the whole season. I think is when Harry says to Dexter, "It's your code now."
Yeah.
And I was like, that is huge.
That was such a good line.
He is acknowledging that like his son has taken what he's been taught, but now he's operating on his own.
Yeah.
He's making choices on his own. He doesn't need me to show him or guide him or greenlight him or whatever. He is making these choices himself, and he's making the right ones.
Right. Oh, it's so good.
It's good. That was the moment where I was like, I don't give a shit that this was kind of a safe episode. Like that was good. That was a good moment.
Also, if you just fire a flare gun in the air a couple times, are people like guaranteed to go to that spot?
I don't think guaranteed, but I think it definitely gets people's attention.
Yeah. Okay.
This is more of like a plot device thing, you know, like,
sure.
And he is, like you said, half a mile from a police station. You know, if somebody reports they just saw 3 flares going off.
Yeah.
Like one flare is one thing, but seeing 3 go off back to back to back, I feel like somebody would probably call it in and be like, I don't know what's going on, but I just saw 3 flares. And the implication would be that police would probably show up, or the Coast Guard or whatever. I don't know. And if that wasn't the case, I'm sure he would just call in an anonymous tip or tip somebody off somehow to go take care of it. I mean, at that point, Nikki is safe. So Right. It certainly felt cool. Like in the moment, it was a cool moment.
It was cool.
Fired the flares, police show up, and he was like, all right, time to go do what I really set out to do.
Right.
Take out Spencer.
Yep. In the meantime, we get Harry tracking down Brian. Brian goes to like go out the door, and Harry's like right there with his gun. That was such a good shot.
Chainsaw gave me away.
Yeah, that was such a good line.
Yeah.
So we find out that the guy that he choked out, like one of the first guy, or the guy after Rowell.
Yeah, the one that where him and Sanders helped lift the body onto the stretcher.
Yeah. Yep. That was the first kid who pushed him in the closet in the flashback. So the flashback makes a lot more sense now.
Yep.
And then the guy with like that he put the bag over his head.
Yeah.
That was the one in the group home who took his food, and then Brian stabbed him with the fork.
Yeah.
And so that was such a good reveal. And then Brian just kind of lays it all out, like everything that happened from his point of view, he kind of explains to Harry. And he tells him, like, you know, you used Laura and you made her your snitch, and then you sent her into this area where she got killed. Then he's like, then you buried me so deep in the system that, you know, I'd never have a chance of getting out and you wouldn't have to deal with me anymore. Which that wasn't, you know, Harry's intention. That's just kind of what happened due to Brian's
If I were
own
Harry in that
decisions.
moment, I would have been like, "You tried to kill my daughter,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
bro.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think I was gonna do?" As an adult now,
Yeah.
what do you think I was gonna do after
Yeah.
that kind of thing? But
Right.
Brian is a little crazy, so
Right. Right. Harry does say that he never meant to hurt Brian. And Brian's like, I need to see Dexter. And he's like, that absolutely cannot happen. Like, you're going to bring all your trauma with you. And he says, two things can be true at the same time. You can hate me for good reasons and still know that I am the best thing for Dexter.
yeah.
It is such a good line. And Brian, he pulls out the handcuffs and Brian says, I'm not going to prison, but I'm going to offer you the chance to, like, kill me, basically. And he, like, gently puts his hands on his gun and he, like, brings it up to his head. And I mean, he gives him a solid, like, 10 seconds to pull the trigger, and Harry never does. And so then he, like, takes his gun and pistol whips him.
He waits till the moment he can see him take his finger off the trigger, and he's like, "There's my chance."
Ooh, okay. I didn't catch that. That's good.
Yeah, you see him ease up on the trigger, and that's when he's like, "Oh, there it is."
Yep.
And then he takes control of the situation again.
Right. So yeah, he takes his gun, and then we can jump ahead in the notes a little bit because Harry wakes up chained to the nearby pipe.
Handcuffs. With his own handcuffs.
But he's got the key.
Smart. He's got a key in his socks.
Oh, is that where it was? I thought Brian
yeah.
intentionally left him the key.
I don't think I'll ever be in a situation where I'm a police officer, but if I ever am in a situation where I carry handcuffs on me, I am using that trick.
Yeah.
I'm keeping the keys in my socks.
Yeah, that's a good way to go about it.
Good life lesson right there.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's got a key, he lets himself out, and Brian left him his gun, which I think says a lot about Brian. Harry got through to him on some level because on the wall is scrawled, "You're right." And it looks like it's written in blood. I don't know whose blood it is.
I would imagine it's probably Harry's because he hit him over the head and he had blood pouring out of his head.
Okay.
And remember when he shows back at the hospital and Deb's like, "Holy shit, are you all right?" Because he has blood from where he got pistol whipped.
Right. So, okay.
Again, I think this is another one of those things that's like, it's making me rethink how I look at Brian. I no longer see him as just this like crazy fucking psychopath.
Right.
I mean, I still think he is that, but like it's so much more than that.
Right.
And he is capable of showing mercy and is capable of like seeing the nuance in complex situations. Right. Because I think if he was really just the crazy psychopath, vengeful psychopath that they wanted us to believe originally, he would have not hesitated to just fucking murder Harry right there.
Right. Yeah, it's so interesting. It's kind of like this scene sets us up for the next season or 2 seasons or 3 seasons or whatever. Because it's like, do you think that Harry now, it's like, okay, they both have an understanding. Brian knows that Harry is the best thing for Dexter, so he's going to back off. And then also Harry's going to let Brian go because he feels bad for how like fucked up he is. Do you think that this scene is kind of the defining factor of their relationship going forward?
I mean, maybe but like if we want to like continue under the assumption that our theory about Brian ultimately leading to like Harry to like walk in on Dexter or just set him up for like becoming responsible for Harry's death ultimately. Like, then this can't be the end of it. Like, this can't be the final result of their dynamic. Like, there's gotta, and we see that at the end of this episode. The last shot of the season is Brian watching through the window as like Harry and Dexter and Deb have this like touching family happy moment together. And Brian's just on the outside looking in, feeling like he doesn't belong. So
okay.
I don't think it ends here. I think this was just this scene was more of just like a mutual acknowledgement of the truth.
Yeah.
which is Harry did a good thing for Dexter. Brian recognizes that Harry did a good thing for Dexter, even though he hates him for what he did to him
Mm-hmm.
and how he separated them.
Yeah.
But Harry managed to get through to him in that moment, and which is ultimately what saved his own skin.
Yeah.
It might not be a truce. It might just be like, this is your one free pass. I'm letting you live because I acknowledge that you're right.
Yeah.
But next time we see each other, it's back on. It might be that.
Okay.
It might be that. So
yeah, I'm with you. Okay, so then we get Spencer showing up at his ex-wife's house. And in my notes here, I wrote that he kills Nelson, but I don't think Nelson is dead.
No, I think Dexter implies that he's still alive. He just hit him and pushed him down a flight of stairs and knocked him out.
Right.
Is what I assume.
But yeah, he's coming after her, and this scene where he's like trying to break down the door is so good. Where he's just like yelling at her, and she's like, oh, what does she say? She says something. He's like, I'm gonna.
He's like, oh,
she's like, what'd you do to Nelson?
What'd you do to Nikki? And he said, the same thing I'm gonna do to you, except I'm gonna look you in the face or in the eyes when I do it.
Yeah. Kind
of thing. So it was very much like she realized, okay, he's the one who took Nikki.
Yeah.
He's off as a rocker, and like he's at this point, he's just like, he doesn't give a shit about collateral damage. I think that's what makes him such an interesting villain, because there's never been a villain in Dexter that has been literally just a good person turned rotten by like a bad hand. You know what I mean? It's always been someone who is a psychopath or, has some other motivation, right? But this is just like a good person turned bad. Because of mitigating circumstances. And they've just lost their fucking mind. It's like literally just someone lost their fucking mind.
Right.
Which is just, they've never done that before. So I applaud them for doing it here.
Yeah. It's so interesting.
This was the moment where it became crystal clear that, oh, dude, this guy's just fucking off his rocker.
Yeah.
Just cannot contain it. He hates his wife his ex-wife with every fiber of his being. And killing her is the only thing. He's convinced that killing her is the only thing that's going to make him feel better.
Right.
And that's just so atypical for a Dexter villain.
Yeah.
And it was cool. And it also helped shape Dexter's worldview. Like he said in the last episode, he's like, when he realized that he just hates his wife, he was like, he said something along the lines of, and that's when I realized a single moment can turn a good person into a monster. And it just, the world became a darker place in that moment when he had that realization. And I was like, that's huge, and it's true. And like Spencer in a lot of ways almost feels more real than almost every other villain they've ever done.
Oh, for sure.
Because he's just a fucking dude who just lost his mind.
Yep.
With hatred.
Yep. What did they? So they didn't explain. At least you and I have our ideas, but to the audience, they never explained why Spencer killed Jimmy Powell.
Yeah, I think we're just supposed to kind of understand that he was using it to like keep the police focused on the cartel, which is fucked up. Which means his willingness to kill a child, like his hatred for his wife goes so deep, that he was willing to just kill a child to like set this whole thing in motion so that he could eventually ruin her life.
Right.
But yeah. And honestly, this is like one of the few things where they didn't feel the need to explain verbatim, and I think because of that, I appreciate it.
Oh,
there were
really?
There were so many things that they just like, they made sure that we knew exactly what was happening, and it was like, and it almost has that feeling of like you're watching a movie and the bad guy is like telling you their master plan, right? Where it's like, and it's just so that the audience fucking understands, and it's like, it's like, you don't. In some situations, that's fine, but I don't feel like I need them to hold my hand. I appreciate that the Jimmy Powell thing was left for me to just kind of like ponder about and come to my own conclusions. I think most people who take the time to like think about it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And I don't think they did that with a lot of stuff this season. They made sure that everything was crystal fucking clear.
Mm-hmm.
And I always appreciate when shows kind of like trust the audience to like put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, I think trusting the audience goes a long way. I will say it would have been cool to get like something where you find out that Judge Powell was the one that like presided over the divorce or something.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting. But otherwise, like, you know, you and I have come to our own conclusion. Like, I would very much agree with you on why he killed Jimmy Powell.
You know, if they do a season 2, they could still comment on it. You know, it's one of those things like, you know, I would imagine this is where they're going to introduce Captain Matthews.
Yes.
And they can talk about what happened to the last captain. And this episode ends with them, with everyone thinking that he's in the wind, like he's on the run. So like, that topic of discussion, that investigation may still be ongoing when season 2 picks up, assuming season 2 happens.
I thought the finale was going to have like a little bit of a time jump, like a week or something.
Yeah.
And that we would see Captain Matthews at the end of it. I thought we were going to get a reveal.
There was an actor who was in somewhere in Original Sin. I think he was just a background. I think ultimately he was just a background actor playing a police officer at Miami Metro. But he looked remarkably like a young Captain Matthews, and like he was like on social media being like kind of coy about it or whatever. So like, okay, I don't know if he's like actually like a deep plant to like grow into that character or something, but you know, do you think
there's another captain in between Spencer and Matthews?
I don't think so. I mean, if they do that, I think people are really going to be like, where the fuck is Matthews? Like, we know he's there. We know he exists.
Yeah.
Like right now it feels like a plot hole. Like fill the fucking hole.
Yeah.
Give us Captain Matthews. And I think that's the inevitable. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Captain Spencer is clearly out.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to fill that void, and Spencer or Matthews is like the only logical choice, I think. So
yeah. Harry, his pager goes off, and he shows up to Bobby's room, and for a second I thought she was going to say that Bobby was dead.
Yeah, they did that very intentionally. Like Deb's like not even facing him, and you're just like waiting for her to turn around so you can see what her facial expression is.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of people expected him to die. So I think I was kind of braced. I was kind of thinking, I was like, I think everybody thinks he's going to die, so they're going to let him like pull through.
Oh,
and then she turns around and she has this look. She's like, he's going to be fine. And I was like, I was like, good. I was like, and it's almost funny. It's almost like, because like in the last episode when Spencer's on the table and Dexter's like, I like him, and he's talking about Bobby, and he was like, I like him too. I was like, everybody likes Bobby. Nobody wants to see Bobby die. I almost feel like that was almost like for the audience, like acknowledging that everybody loves Bobby, and hopefully Bobby comes back. And I think now Bobby is destined to return.
Yeah. That was a great exchange where he's like, I like him. And he's like, I like him too.
that was another thing that was really interesting. It's like Spencer is a villain. He's a bad guy. He's not a psychopath. He is capable of liking people. Like he genuinely doesn't hate everybody around him. He doesn't want to see everybody die. He just hates his fucking wife more than life itself. And so like when he's like, and let's not forget about what you did to Bobby. I like him. And he's like, I like him too. He was being truthful.
Yeah.
He's like, of course I like Bobby. I don't want to see Bobby die.
Right.
Like, I was just like, that's so fucked. You want your wife to like suffer from the loss of a child? If you want to murder your son, whether he's your blood or not, you want to murder your son so that your wife is miserable for the rest of her life.
Mm-hmm.
But you also like Bobby.
Right. Yeah, like it's so at odds.
Weird. But it's cool. I think it's what makes him an interesting villain.
Yeah, he was a great villain. Like once we got to understand, like officially, like we could guess or whatever, but officially like what his motives are.
Yeah.
Is kind of like, oh, I see what they did there. Very cool.
There is something cool about the simplicity of
Mhm.
his motivations.
Yeah.
I know I was hoping for like a big revelatory twist, but like at the end of the day, the simplicity is also really compelling.
And I think it fits with an origin story, right? Because before you go after these like big killers with like complicated motivations and stuff, you kind of have to deal with the local thug, right? Like,
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that.
yeah,
It felt like a very appropriate like first
yeah,
like
big
baby's
bad.
first villain.
Yeah. So then we get Dexter on the boat. I was so upset that we did not get him buying the boat like a scene. And I don't think he's bought the boat at this point.
No, he's literally just borrowing this boat.
He's just
like,
borrowing the boat.
like I don't know what that does. Does that mean he called Camilla and was like, "Hey, can I take the boat out?" Or does he just now know how to use her boat, so he just
Goes
treats
and gets
himself?
it. Yeah. I kind of think that he just goes and gets it.
Yeah, I mean, Camilla seems like she doesn't give a shit. She's like,
Yeah.
"You do whatever you want. You do whatever you want, baby." That's what that feels like.
Yeah.
And I think that's also kind of hilarious. But I also think it's like also low key hilarious that like he takes her boat because she's such a nice person, and he fucking brutally murders somebody on the back of the boat, like blood everywhere.
There
I
was
was like,
so much blood.
I kept thinking, it's like, I hope he brought a shit ton of bleach. I don't see it anywhere, but like,
Right.
I'm going to assume he's got a bunch of bleach
Yeah.
on this boat with him.
Because we see him like hose it down or whatever, but
I was like, I don't like he hoses it down. Like, I get it, you hosed it down, but like, God forbid you missed a spot, or there's ever any reason for like police to like investigate that boat and like they find a little trace of his blood somewhere, and then it's like, then you're really fucked. Like,
I was really surprised that he killed him on the back of the boat.
it's not the first time he kills someone on the boat. Before, in season 7, he kills Hannah McKay's father on the boat.
That's right. Yeah.
And
okay.
Isaac Serco dies on the boat, but like
he does
not
die
his
on
hand.
the boat. Yeah.
And he leaves a lot of blood on the boat too.
Right.
So clearly it's had its fair share of boat. And fucking what's his name? Oh my god, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. The fucking intern. I hate this guy.
What season?
Season 7, he's
the guy that takes the hand?
Lewis.
Yeah,
yes,
Lewis.
Lewis ends up getting killed on the boat, but not by Dexter. So like, and then he ends up finding a bunch of blood with the luminol on the boat.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think they cleaned it up with bleach. So
who kills him on the boat?
Isaac Serco. He's trying to he goes out there and he's trying to sink Dexter's boat, and then Isaac Serco's tracking the boat, trying to find Dexter, and he finds Lewis on the boat, and he thinks Lewis
does Lewis come in season 7?
6. He's introduced in 6. Here's you want to talk about crazy theories I've had about this show in the past? I am convinced that they introduced Lewis in season 6 with the intention of building him into the final villain of the entire show. Like, I thought the brain, I was like, when it was all said and done, I was like, I feel like the brain surgeon was supposed to be Lewis. But at the beginning of season, at the beginning of season 7, he got an offer to be like on some Broadway production or something, and he really wanted to take it, so he left, and they had to write him out of the show. That's why they just they just kill him off.
That's such a good theory.
So I was like, and then they introduced this weird rando dude in season 8 to become the brain surgeon. I was like,
hated the brain surgeon.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was poorly executed. I think the brain surgeon as an idea was really cool, but I think
great
the
idea,
execution was kind of bad.
Yeah.
But like, you talk about Lewis like stealing the hand and like doing all this like cryptic shit with it, and then in season 7, it's just like, you made fun of my video game and I fucking hate you about it, and then he's trying to sink the boat, and then Isaac kills him. Like, it's just, it feels like such a like
it was weird. Yeah,
it's like, but
even Dexter at the time was like, what?
I could just see them like planning that character and then being like, when we finally get to whatever ends up being our final season, we're gonna make him actually have some connection to Dexter's past.
Yeah,
make him Dr. Vogel's long lost son.
Yeah,
and then reveal that he's been this like slow burn secret villain behind the scenes forever.
Yeah,
and I was like, that would have been so fucking cool. But instead, we got the fucking dude in season 8. Oh my god.
Especially
Whatever.
because Lewis, he had such cool scenes with like Jamie,
Yeah.
and they're
You-
like at his house, and he's got all this weird fucking memorabilia,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, that would have been such a cool villain.
It could have been really cool. It could have been really fucking cool. Like, I can just picture if that had gone on, the reveal, instead of showing that he like took the hand or whatever, or or maybe they kept that in, but like he has all those memorabilia, and then suddenly you see that he has like the glass files with the brain cores, like in like some
Yeah.
secret thing stashed away.
Ooh, that
Like,
would have been so
just
good.
The idea of like planting a villain and like keeping him under wraps and then like revealing at the very end, it could have been so fucking cool.
It could have been.
And it was
so
just
good.
it was not in the cards. That sucks.
Ah,
But that's
man.
neither here nor there. I lose sleep over that sometimes. I'm like, oh, that could have been so cool, and I'm like almost positive they were doing that, but whatever.
Yeah.
It could be just like my twin theory. It could be total bullshit. I don't know.
No, I think you're onto something. When you told me about your twin theory, I was like, I don't know. But with this one, I'm like, I could totally see it. I could totally see him being the brain
They
surgeon.
definitely had other plans for that character, because he
Yeah.
definitely was written out very quickly, because he was like, I need out of my contract because I had this opportunity and I want to take it.
Right.
And they were like, okay.
Man. Yeah, he was another character that you just like love to hate. Like he was
Yeah.
such a hateable character.
He was like likable for a while, and then he became really easy to hate. So
Yeah.
it is what it is.
And he had such like creep energy, like with like when he was dating Jamie. I was like, oh, he just like makes my skin crawl. Like,
Yeah.
ooh. So yeah, Dexter's got him on the boat, and Dexter, he wakes up and everything. And I love the opening line of he's like got the smelling salts, and he like wakes him up. He goes, ah, ah, ah. He's like, oh, it's you. It's just
And then he
this
tries to
moment
get
of
up.
like,
He tries to get up, and he's like, oh, this again.
God damn it.
Or-
Just like, yeah, just like complete resignation. Just
Yeah.
like, oh, it's finally over. Like, even his final words are like, just get it over with.
yeah.
Like, it's just so much resignation.
But also really cool moment, because he's like, I got what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
She'll never feel safe again. And he's like,
Yep.
yeah, but you're right. But Nikki's alive. And you could see for a moment, he's like, you saved Nikki?
Yeah.
Like you could tell he was just like, no.
Fuck. Yeah.
And then Dexter says something along the lines of like, yeah, Nelson. I can't
Nelson's
remember.
alive. He's like, they're gonna go on and be like
They
a
have a-
happy family.
Yeah,
And
they have a chance at happily ever after, and you could tell that like that was the thing that like really
yep.
that hurt.
Right.
Yeah, great scene. And then we've already talked about the knife thing.
Yeah, we talked about the knife thing.
So good.
But he has an interesting line. He says, if you only knew how your dad failed you. And then Dexter, shoots back with, no, this isn't about Harry. No, this night is all about you. He does the head tap.
I think Patrick Gibson was really having a good time with the head, with the finger poke,
I love
which
it.
I'm all for. I think
I love it.
the finger poke thing is always great.
It's so good.
But this also feels like maybe setting up something for season 2, where he's going to be like, Dad, what the hell did Spencer mean when he said that?
Yeah, right? There's got to be something. Because Spencer knows that Harry was like, having an affair with Laura Moser and stuff.
He knows where Dexter came from. He knows Dexter's past. And in fact, a lot of dominoes probably fell in like a lot of pieces probably fell into place in that moment when he realized, oh, Dexter's a fucking psycho. And it's like, oh, I can maybe figure out why, because I know about the shipping container. I know about what he witnessed. I know what Harry did. I know about Brian, because he knows that Dexter was not an only child.
Right.
So like he probably just really quickly was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. At this point, does Dexter know that he was adopted, or does he think that he is Harry's son?
I think he knows that he was adopted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he knows he was adopted.
Okay.
But he knows nothing about his life before.
Right. Okay. So then Dexter has this really interesting ritual that he's been doing all season
That's my
where
favorite new addition, I think.
he like feels their heartbeat.
I kind of hope. Well, in he does it a few times. Like not like they don't show it like this, and they maybe don't call attention to it. But like in New Blood, in particular, there was a couple scenes where he puts his hand on the victim's chest, but he's like while he's talking to him.
Huh.
But like I don't think it was to do necessarily feel their heart. But like I
Yeah.
kind of hope they carry this over and like in Resurrection they use
Yeah.
this trick. It'd be a really cool like little connective piece there.
I like the addition a lot, and at first you can see in my note here it was kind of like just my train of thought. I was like, I wonder why they introduced that for this show, and I'm like, do we ever see that in the main series? And then I immediately remembered there's a flashback scene with young Dexter and Harry, not Michael C. Hall, but
yeah,
like the
yeah.
actual thing, and he
Yeah. He feels his dad's heart.
yeah, and like he like scares him, and then he's like, "Whoa!" and he like feels his heart, and he's like, "Your heart is racing," and it like enthralls him, and I'm like, that is
That's
so
actually
clever.
that's actually a really good point because that event that would have happened before Original Sin.
All of this,
That
yeah,
was like so that was when he was like in high school.
yeah,
So like this could just be a like the lingering effects of that kind of like fascination he has with feeling people's fear like
right,
in their chest.
yeah,
And maybe just over time it faded away or something. But
sure,
yeah, I think it would be really cool to see him like reach into the depths of his like memory and like
mm-hmm,
I used to do this. I'm gonna do this
yeah,
again and like do that to someone in
yeah,
Resurrection. That would be
yeah,
really neat.
uh, yeah.
Yeah,
It's really good.
I like that.
I
I like
like
that a
the
lot.
yeah, same. So then Patrick Dempsey says, just get it over with. And he brings it down. He chops him in the throat. He almost decapitates him. Um,
Brutal.
and there was so many like decapitations this season. Um,
Yeah, there really were.
what does he say? Now it's over, or now
Yeah,
it's finally over, or something. Or he
man.
says he's like, now it's over with. And yeah, we talked about the shot kind of looking up at Patrick Gibson. Um, but I do think that the fascination with decapitation is so interesting because he does
I
it
just
a
think
lot.
I think it's like because it's an easy way of like emphasizing how like messy he is
Yeah,
at this point. He's not like this super neat killer
right.
at this point. I think they will get there to
Hmm.
that point if they keep going with the show because there's no like definitive moment where he like becomes like he were like you have in your notes here about him doing the clean like
Yeah.
stab, but I do
Hmm.
know like the first time I remember seeing him do like the holding the knife over his chest and just bringing it down really cleanly is Lil Chino in season 2.
Right.
And I always
Yeah.
love that scene because it's like it's his first kill after killing Brian, and it's like
Yeah.
after he failed the kill the first time, and he does that thing where he's like, "See that?" He's like showing
Mhm.
how like steady his arm is.
Yeah.
Uh, and then he just like he does that, and then he like grabs the knife at the end and just brings it
Right.
straight down. I was like, I've always loved just like the simplicity
Yeah. I do
of that
too.
like killing with a single stroke.
Hmm.
So I kind of hope he starts to become more and more refined with his methods of
Yeah.
killing. But I also do like it when he like occasionally branches out and does something totally unexpected,
Yeah, he'll do like a garrote or
a
something.
garrote or like a hammer.
Hmm.
I always think of like the opening kill in season 6, the guy at his high school reunion,
Yeah.
because the guy's like blabbering on about how he did it for in the name of Jesus, and he's like, oh, okay, yeah, and he just picks up the fucking mallet and just like
Yeah.
brings it down, and it doesn't kill him, it just like basically just like
Yeah.
stops him from being able to talk, and he's like, okay, now that's done, and then he does the thing with the knife, and I was like, oh, that's so fucking brutal. Like I just every once in a while he like branches out and does something totally unexpected, and
Right.
I love that. Oh,
Yeah.
like season 7 where he like puts the bag over the guy's head and then beats his head in with a fire extinguisher. Like,
Oh yeah. Holy
I mean,
shit.
he did that more out of like he didn't have his tools with him, so he needed to find some. But like, things like that. He branches out occasionally,
Right.
and it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, I do, because if he just did the knife thing every time, it would be kind of boring. But I do think it emphasizes, we see Brian in this episode beat up the therapist with a poker, and he's like just hitting him even after he's dead. He's just hitting him
Yeah.
over and over and over. And Dexter doesn't really have that rage. It's more of like he just needs to do it. Like he just needs to
Yeah.
like do it and get it done, and then it's over. He
Yeah.
doesn't like sit. I mean, he does kind of have his moment
He's more
where he like,
calculated.
yeah, like he has this moment during a kill where he goes like and like
Yeah.
he kind of like absorbs it, but like he doesn't have like an aggression, like a need to
Yeah.
like I need to beat the shit out of you kind
Yeah.
of thing, which makes it so poignant when Rita dies and he kills the guy in the bathroom, and it is like this very brutal, like he murders this guy.
Cold blood. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when Harry says that's the most human thing I've seen you do since Rita died.
Literally one of my favorite lines of the entire fucking series.
Yeah, it's
First
fantastic.
human thing I've seen you do since she died, Dexter. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, fucking breaks my heart every time. It's such a good moment, such a good scene.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So he chops up Patrick Dempsey and he throws him into the ocean. And I'm like, did he chop him up with the machete?
I would imagine so. I mean, the machete seems keen to do the job. Also, nice little touch. He pulls that rock out of the
Yeah.
and he puts it to weigh down the bag, which is exactly what almost gets him caught in season 2. If you remember, they find out
Yeah.
about the algae growing on the rocks that he used to weigh down the
Right.
bags, and I was like, he's already using the rocks.
Yep. Do you remember in the main series, like because he continues to throw bodies in the ocean.
Yes.
So how does he? Because I know they
changed.
believe Dokes is the Bay Harbor Butcher, but how does he then continue to throw bodies?
He moves his dumping ground. He starts putting them. He dumps them into the Gulf Stream. So like the current carries it out.
Okay.
So he goes out and he has that like radar that kind of can like show currents. So he like drives out, and instead of just floating to the ocean floor, they get taken out to sea.
Oh,
with the
okay.
current, which is very smart.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so then as he's like throwing the bags into the ocean, we get the blood theme playing.
Yeah.
And I was like, was this the first time this season where we hear the classic blood theme, like da-na?
No, I think they've played it.
Da-na.
I think they've played it a couple times. I think.
Okay.
But
It fit very well.
I will keep my eyes ears peeled. Whatever. You know
Ears
what I
peeled.
mean. I will
Yeah.
keep my ears open next time I rewatch. So
For sure. Okay. So then he says the Michael C. Hall monologue. Thanks to Camilla, I had a new way to dispose of my bodies. I was a little closer to my final form. I almost felt complete.
but there's still pieces missing.
There's still pieces missing. There's no blood slides. The boat isn't his. It still says slice of pie. And so I'm curious if we'll see him buy it early in season 2.
Camilla's probably just gonna be like, "You've clearly been taking the boat out a lot. Maybe you should just. Would you like to just buy it from me?"
Yeah. I almost wonder if she'll just like give it to him.
Maybe.
But yeah, I would like the scene like you and I have been talking about where he tells Harry, I need a boat. Like I need I need
you
boat.
to buy me a boat.
Hear me out.
That conversation's got to be coming soon, because it's going to eventually be like, Harry's going to be like, wait a second, what did you do with Spencer?
Right. Yeah. Oh, it's going to be, I'm looking forward to it. Harry, so this is where we get like probably my favorite scene of the episode.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Harry is home and Dexter comes home, and Harry is drinking whiskey, and he sees that Nikki Spencer has been found, and Dexter comes in the door in his like classic Dexter, like he's got the brown shirt. He's
It's
got
not the Henley. It's not the
oh it
Henley shirt.
oh it's not okay. I thought
No,
it was
but no, that it kind of resembles it, I guess. But like
okay,
that's one of the things that Clyde Phillips in that interview was like, we still got to show how you get to the Henley,
right?
and I just like so that's something
Okay,
that's something they talk about apparently is the Henley. Like I always thought it was kind of just like a detail that was like not super important behind the scenes, but I guess the
sure.
Henley is like a really big deal.
Okay,
So,
cool.
but yeah, what he was wearing on that episode was not the classic shirt.
Well, he looks like Dexter. Like he comes in just looking like Dexter, I guess.
Yeah.
And I love this exchange where he comes in and he's like, oh, he's like breathing heavy and stuff. And Harry's like, what happened to you? And Dexter says, what happened to you?
What the fuck? I also like this exchange because it suggests that like Harry now realizes that Dexter was right about Spencer, but he doesn't immediately realize that Dexter has taken care of it.
Yes, he says, your instincts were right about Dexter. I should have listened to you. He would have been caught days ago. And then it's like quiet for a minute, and Dexter's like, just like very slyly says, that's all right. I didn't listen to you either.
And I was like,
And it's just like, oh my God!
Yeah, that was good.
It was so good. And then he like explains everything.
Yeah, it was a good moment because I was not sure how Harry was going to react, but it was very clearly this like
It's like
he has outgrown this dynamic. Like I am not nearly as big a factor in this as I think I am. He's operating on his own now, and he knows better than I do.
And I don't know how I feel about that because I would have liked to have seen. I mean, maybe it'll still happen. Like, I'm sure that Harry will give him targets to go assassinate, essentially. But I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of, like, some push and pull there. And that's what this season was about, so I get it, but...
You know what I think might end up, the direction that might end up going, which is kind of what you just suggested, but maybe slightly different in that I wouldn't be surprised if going forward, like, depending on what the circumstances are of the season and what's going on with Harry, if Harry is going to be in like a really dark place and Harry is going to be like asking Dexter to do this for him, and Dexter is going to be like, Dad, I don't think you want me to do this. And it's going to be Dexter trying to talk Harry off the ledge. And then Harry is going to ask Dexter to kill that drug dealer. And that's the one he's going to walk in on. And Dexter's going to be like, this is what you asked for, right? And that's going to be like...
What drug dealer?
The drug dealer that he eventually walks in on Dexter killing. The one where...
it was confirmed that he had walked in on a drug dealer?
Yeah. The flashback that we saw in the original series where he walks in on Dexter in the middle of a kill and then throws up and...
What season is that in?
2.
Wait, did I miss it in season 2?
Yeah,
what?
It's like at the end. I think it's the episode called "There's Something About Harry."
Okay, I'll have to go back and look for that because I don't. remember.
He walks in to a kill room as Dexter's like cutting this guy into pieces.
Yeah,
and then he like throws up, and then that's when he goes. That's when he says, "Stay away from me."
Yeah,
and Dexter's like, "What the fuck?" So like I wouldn't be surprised if like we come to find out that kill is actually one that Harry asked Dexter to do on his behalf.
Okay.
Which would also obviously add to the feelings of guilt that might lead to suicide. I don't know. I still like our idea about Brian manipulating him into walking into that kill room. And that could maybe both of those things could still be true. I don't know. Maybe he asked Dexter to kill him and then Brian's like, "Here, why don't you walk this way?" and just tricks him into walking in on it happening.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I have a feeling that the dynamic is going to shift, and it's going to be like Harry is the one who's like on the slippery slope morally, and Dexter's the one who, despite the fact that he's the one doing the killing, is going to be the one trying to like stop Harry from doing or asking him to do something that he can't take back, that kind of thing.
I'm 100% with you, because that's kind of what I've been waiting for, is for Harry to be giving like kill orders and being like, we can't get this guy. I need you to go kill him.
I think that's going to happen. I just think it's going to be coming from a very dark place for Harry. It's going to just be like a place of frustration, a place of anger, and I think Dexter is going to be very hesitant.
Yeah,
like the Dexter, the Dexter we met at the beginning of Original Sin might have been originally been like, oh yeah, sign me up. But I feel like he's growing enough as like a person, and like taking the code on and understanding the responsibility that he has. To the point where now, when Harry asks him to do that, his reaction is now like, "Are you sure about that, Dad? Because I don't think that's a good idea."
Yeah, and we see that growth that you're talking about right now in this not final scene with Harry, but at the end of the episode, this moment where you really see that Dexter understands the code, like he really gets it now.
Yeah.
And Harry says, I saw in Spencer what I wanted to see, not who he actually was. And then Dexter says, Spencer wasn't born a monster, he became one, but me, I was born this way. And then of course as soon as he says that, Harry sees the flashbacks of Dexter as like a young child who was not born this way. Like
just a sweet little boy. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Harry lies and he says, yes, you were, but I couldn't be prouder of what you've become. And that
right there is the original sin.
Oh.
The moment he had a defining moment, both Dexter and Harry had a defining moment in this episode, and Harry's defining moment was he had the opportunity to tell Dexter the truth, and he decided to lie to him.
I didn't even think about what the original sin would be.
I didn't really think about it until just now either.
That's
you could probably make a case for like any number of things that happened this season being the original sin, but that feels like maybe if you want to pinpoint like a specific moment, I feel like that was maybe a defining moment.
Yeah, that was. There was also the thing like an episode or two ago where Dexter says that was the first time my father lied to me or whatever.
Yeah.
That could have been one. But I do love I couldn't be prouder of what you've become, because Dexter this whole season is trying to make his dad proud to some extent. He's trying to balance like wanting to make his dad proud, but also like his urges and desires. And so this means a lot. And Dexter says, Patrick Gibson has such a great monologue. He says, thank you for believing I could be more, for showing me how to channel my urges, control them, and for teaching me who deserves to die. I'm sorry it had to be your friend.
Yeah.
And then Harry says, you did the right thing, son. Such a great... Ooh, it's such a great moment. Man, it's so good. We get another thing referencing, teaching me who deserves to die at the end of the episode here too. We'll get to that in a second. And then we switch to Deb's school and we get Wave of Mutilation playing. I'm like, I love this song.
I've never heard that song.
Oh, really? Did you ever play like Rock Band or anything?
I did, but I wasn't like not a ton. So
okay, yeah. Wave of Mutilation. That was the first time I heard it was in Rock Band.
Cool.
So then Deb apologizes to Sophia, which I don't think she should have.
These two. I mean, I think it's it's high school drama bullshit. But like Sophia was in the wrong, but like, friends are important kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, she's like, she maybe acknowledges that like it's important to support your brother, I suppose, but like she did it at the complete disregard of her best friend's feelings.
Sure.
And I think that's really all she was acknowledging.
Sure.
I like Sophia enough that I wouldn't mind if she comes back in season 2.
I don't care about Sophia at all. Like if she never showed up again, I wouldn't care.
I don't know. I hope if they do bring her back, they give her more to do that's directly related to like Dexter and his secret. That would be interesting. Especially if she's like still trying to like get in his pants and he's just like she's like on the cusp of like botching like a lot of his plans,
right?
Just because she's trying to like get in his pants and stuff. Like that'd actually be pretty funny. I'd be here for that.
Yeah, it'd be great. It'd be great if
she'd also make a great victim for like one
of the other killers. Yeah, that'd be funny if they got back together. I guess I'd be interested in that.
She had some genuinely funny scenes in this season.
She did. Yeah, she did. So then we get to the office and Harry is looking at the Spencer board, knowing that Dexter got him, but just kind of like there, right?
Yep.
He's like, how did I miss all the clues? Like now that it's all laid out, they're right there. And then Angel says, those clouded by anger do not make logical decisions. And it seemed like such a poignant line. I was wondering if it was in reference to anything. Was there any reference there?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. And then I love that he says, officially, there's counseling available for any officer who needs it. Unofficially, I got a bottle of Santa Teresa 1796 in my desk.
Good old Angel.
It's like, I love him. I love him so much. And then I was like, holy shit, 1796? Like, that is an expensive bottle of tequila or whiskey or whatever it is. I'm like, I don't think I've ever heard of anybody having a bottle from 1796.
I would guess it's probably just the name of the brand or something.
Is it? Okay.
I don't know. I am not a tequila connoisseur, so I have no clue. But
I'm like, that would be insane. Like that is like an.
Also, I feel like you would have to be like uber wealthy to afford something like that. So I don't think Angel is super wealthy.
Okay, yeah, because I was like, Jesus Christ, that would be one hell of a bottle of whiskey.
I'm gonna Google this and see what comes up.
Yeah, do that.
Let's see. It's a triple aged rum that follows a unique aging process. Blah blah blah. It appears to be Santa Teresa 1796 is a brand of rum.
Okay.
And it's rum, strangely enough. Rum.
Interesting. Yeah, I got it both of them wrong.
Maybe, I think, why would it not be tequila? Whatever, I don't know.
Yeah, you would think it would be tequila with him. Okay, so then we talked about this earlier, but Angel asked about the NHI murders. Harry says there's no serial killer, it was just random killings. LaGuardia kind of overhears this, or at least it's implied that she does, and she doesn't look too happy. So I don't know what's gonna happen with that. I think it's interesting that they gave LaGuardia and Harry this like almost not antagonistic plot, but almost like this untrusting plot. And I was kind of hoping that they would be like best friends. I don't know.
I mean, I think it started. I mean, their dynamic certainly was interesting in the sense that like he was like the one person that was like giving her the credit where she deserved credit, and that built a rapport between them. Mm-hmm. But I think him doing this just kind of threw that in the trash.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a big deal next season.
Yeah, I think so too. We get Masuka saying Tyrannosaurus Dex. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Tanya hires Dexter full-time. She hands him an official badge or laminate or whatever it is.
It's a laminate.
It's a laminate, okay. And it looks like Tanya
they drive
will be
that point home very frequently in the original series, and people are like, "Don't you have a
Yeah.
badge?" He's like, "It's a laminate, actually."
I do remember him saying that, yeah. And then it looks like Tanya's going to be back for season 2.
I mean,
Like,
it certainly seems like they've set her up to be a recurring character. I
yeah.
wouldn't be surprised. I mean, this role seems, based on the kind of things she said in the past, but like, kind of like the role she wants to take.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't want to be like the lead of a series anymore, that kind of thing. Like, this
Right.
seems like, I mean, I say that at the same time they're announcing a reboot of Buffy, but she
Yeah.
won't be like the main character of Buffy. But
Right.
so like, but this seems perfect for her. You know, it's like one of those things where, like, show up, do a fairly small part in Dexter, and everybody seems to like her, even if she didn't have like the most earth-shattering role to play in the story.
Yeah.
She was great.
I don't know how I feel about her. I mean, I like Michelle, or Sarah Michelle Gellar.
I think
but
she's just a likable character that just doesn't have a lot of impacts on.
I was just
what's
so
going on.
surprised. I was like, you have Sarah Michelle Gellar, and you're not, like, she didn't do anything. Like, she didn't have any role whatsoever this season.
I think I literally think it came down to, they had this character that of Tanya, and they wanted to, and everybody, I would imagine, like, because, you know, a lot of the show is like kind of like an homage to like 90s culture or whatever, and she was a huge part of 90s culture.
Oh, yeah.
So like, it almost felt like an homage to, furthering the homage to the 90s culture by like putting her in a role. And I don't think I don't know if that even ever factored into the decision. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
she doesn't have a huge part to play, but like, if she said yes, wouldn't it be fucking awesome? And she said yes. And what she did have, which again, not a lot, what she did have, she did a really good job at. So
Yeah.
maybe if she comes back for a second season, maybe she'll have a bigger role to play.
I hope so. Because
I mean, I'm still not going to rule out the possibility of her eventually being a victim. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she's a character that everybody likes,
Yeah.
I think, at this point. So when you have a character everybody likes, that makes them very, very vulnerable to,
Yeah.
you know, having a very a big emotional impact when something bad happens to them. So
Right. Yeah, because she's got to die. Like,
yeah.
Somehow.
Something's got to happen. Also, John, at Dexter Daily, he is convinced that maybe his crazy theory, like his twin theory, I guess you would call it, is that they're doing this to set up her appearing in Resurrection. Like,
I don't think so.
But I was like, she would be like 60 years old, and I was like, the last thing I want them to do is like bring Sarah Michelle Gellar on and then like put a bunch of makeup on her to make her look old. It's just gonna be distracting.
And I just don't know how you get away with the fact that she is never, ever, ever mentioned.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Captain Spencer is never mentioned.
I mean,
either.
It could just be a situation where like she quits the Force or whatever, or leaves right before the original show started, and that why it never came up. But like, if something happens in season 2 that like maybe turns her on to like what's going on with Dexter or whatever, and then she ends up getting like leaving the Force or whatever, but she's like keenly aware of what Dexter is doing or something, that might make her like someone that might like be like, when she realizes what's happening, when she sees him on the news and she's like, what the fuck?
Right.
And then she like maybe like volunteers herself to like be a part of the investigation and be like, I have information that y'all could use, that kind of thing. I think that's like the longest shot in the dark, but it's interesting, especially now that we know nothing bad happened to her in this season. So
super interesting. Dexter, she hands him a bunch of files. She says, I want this on my desk in the morning, and I get here super early. He like looks at the files and says, a whole new set of playmates I had yet to meet. Yeah. And I was just like, oh man. Then he does like the chair spin, and he kind of like winks at the camera, or he like lifts his eyebrow. I was like, all right.
And another great line from the monologue: Harry spent years teaching me why some had to die. This was the first time I understood why I had to do what I do, because some people deserve to live. And I was like,
yeah. This is good. When Bobby is he's coming out of the hospital. Everybody's cheering him. What a great moment. It was a very like
Yeah.
Dexter thing to say. It was
Yeah.
like a very like you would
And you
expect.
want to talk about like lines that could like endear a character like this to a new audience who is still trying to like grapple with like the
Morality.
like the morality of the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
Like that summarizes kind of like everything. I think it's like
Yes.
what I'm doing is wrong, but I'm doing it for the right reasons,
Yep.
kind of thing. So.
Yeah. So good. The family goes out for a celebratory dinner. Deb shows off her acceptance to Florida Police Academy. And it almost seemed like
Specifically, it says Miami Metro Police Academy, and made me think,
oh,
does like every police station have their own like police academy? I don't know. I don't know how that shit works.
I don't know how
but
it
said
works.
Miami. It said Miami Metro Police Academy on it, but like maybe Miami Metro is just kind of like the biggest police force in Florida, so like they're the ones at the I don't know.
That
I'm
have
speculating.
the academy. Yeah, that makes sense.
But it was a cool like way to like lead Deb on her own little origin story of like how she became interested in the police work in the first place and that kind of thing.
Which is funny because when we see her at the beginning of season 1, she is like an undercover agent, very like disrespected.
She's
and
working in Vice.
Yeah,
under LaGuerta.
It's like, does she spend the next 10 years just
I would imagine
doing shit work, or
I would imagine she spends like 3 years in the academy.
Okay.
And she probably has to do like 3 or 4 years or something of like working as like a uni, so like beat cop stuff.
Yeah.
Then I don't know if she went straight into Vice or if she maybe went to like one of the lower units, like robbery or something. Did that for a little bit and then worked her way up to Vice, and then but Vice was really just like another stepping stone she had to go through to get to homicide. And I would imagine that whatever it is between her and LaGuerta, because we see the one interaction she has with LaGuerta this season is also very like she's already annoyed by Deb. So like that whole LaGuerta might be like literally making it super hard for her to get where she wants to go.
Right. Yeah, that could be. They go out for a celebratory dinner, police academy. Harry is very proud of her. He
finally acknowledges how proud he is of both of his children in this episode. And I was like,
I was braced for him to be like, no, you can't do police academy. Like, I'm not gonna support you going through. He's like, you don't want to see what we see, or something like that. But he was like, all right.
I think that's like the cliche kind of thing that I think that's what everybody would have maybe expected, and rightfully so. So like, it was really interesting to kind of like circumvent that expectation and have him actually be like really positive about that idea.
Right.
So
yeah,
cool.
She says, now you'll have to include me in all your secret conversations. It's like, well, our secret conversations aren't about police work.
Yeah. Pump the brakes.
Yeah. She goes off dancing, and Harry and Dexter talk for a second, and he says, I'm so proud that you went after Nikki instead of Spencer. And Dexter says, like, I only made it this far because I followed your code. And Harry says, it's your code now.
Boom.
It's like, oh,
mic drop.
What a great scene. And then we end the episode with Deb. She's dancing with her brother, and
it's so funny. Deb goes out there looking ridiculous. Dexter goes out there, doesn't know how to dance, looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
Thank God Harry swoops in and actually starts doing some like salsa moves. I was like, oh, thank God somebody knows what they're fucking doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a touching moment. I like this moment. And then of course you have Brian watching from the outside, looking very sad, and that's a gut punch.
It's very Dexter. Like, the end of this was very, like, very, very Dexter.
Happy. It's like very Dexter in that it's like very like happy, but like you can feel like the cusp of like conflict,
tragedy
looming just outside the periphery. Yeah.
Yep. So there we go. That's the end of the finale. We had a lot to talk about there, but this episode was packed with stuff. It was packed.
as a finale should be.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's like we've said it before. It's kind of a safe episode, but at the same time, like the stuff that's there is like
A lot.
juicy.
Yeah.
Juicy. So a lot of stuff to unpack.
It's good. Okay, so final thoughts. What do you think for season 2? What are you thinking we're gonna see? You mentioned that Harry is gonna have like a bit of a spiral. What else?
I mean, I think the Harry Brian dynamic is going to be a huge component of it. I think LaGuerta and Harry's dynamic is going to be a huge component of it. I think we'll get Captain Matthews introduced very early. I think they're going to start thinking a little bit bigger in terms of like the kind of targets that he's taking, or I guess the villain, whoever the villain ends up being, is going to be a bit more new. That seems right. A bit more nuanced than I guess Spencer was.
Yeah.
Like someone on maybe kind of like on his level.
Yeah.
Probably more like a traditional Dexter villain, which is fine, obviously.
I kind of wonder if we'll see somebody that is Dexter's own age, that is kind of, at like the same exact level.
One of the things they haven't done, like they skewed so far from the books very quickly. I think that was for the best. But there are stories that are told in the books that could be interesting as just, even if they're just like launch points for a story. Like don't follow it verbatim, but like if you want to talk about like a good premise for an idea, there's one of the books is called Double Dexter, and it's like there's a copycat of Dexter, like trying to do exactly what he does the way that he does it. So like you want to talk about maybe an interesting villain they've never done, somebody that's like watching and idolizing Dexter from afar. That's not Brian,
right?
That's just like sees what he's doing and wants to be just like him and is trying to mimic him.
That would be cool.
That could be really cool. They've never done anything like that. So like I hope they continue to like think a little bit outside the box. I think Spencer was a really interesting villain because he's so unlike anything they've ever done before. I think that should be the focus going forward. I think they should do the same thing in Resurrection. And I think honestly they've done that pretty consistently throughout the entire series. I think every villain has been pretty different.
Yeah.
So I want to see them. I think the show is always as good as the villain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when the villain is good, the show is good.
Yeah.
Because Dexter, I think Dexter is always going to be good. Like the character, he's whatever situation you put him in. Yeah, he is consistently good. Even when like the surrounding stuff is bad, he's good. So like focus your energy on finding a villain that is interesting that people can like really root against. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the rest will just kind of fall into place. I think the pieces that make a really good season of Dexter probably come a lot more naturally when you get the individual pieces right. So like channel all that into finding a cool villain. It makes me really excited. But we're talking about Resurrection with like Peter Dinklage and Uma Thurman, and like it's strongly hinted that Peter Dinklage is maybe the bad guy, or Uma Thurman. I don't know. One of those two has probably got to be the ultimate bad guy of the season.
Right.
So like focus on that, and the rest will happen. And then, of course, at the same time, be feeding us more of this like Brian and Harry dynamic.
Yeah.
And build. I think the show needs to build. Well, there was a time where I thought like Original Sin needs to culminate in Harry's suicide.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily know if that's the case. I feel like you could do that and then show the immediate, like another season could be like the immediate aftermath. Like, what does he do?
Right.
In the aftermath of Harry's death. Like, we never get to see that. Like, where is he emotionally, and like, what does that do to him?
Yeah.
We saw what Rita's death did to him. Like, what would Harry's death do to him? Like, that would be a really interesting question to ask, and that would be cool to see play out.
I mean, I think it would be sick if they took Original Sin all the way to the choir teacher.
That would have to cover 16 years.
Well, like,
I mean, there could be jumps of time in between. Yeah,
jumps of time or whatever, but like, it'd be so interesting to, and I don't even think it would be 16 years, right? Because Michael C. Hall was, what, 27, 28?
Oh, no, season? He was probably 30-something. He was like in mid-30s.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I say 16 years because the original show aired in 2006, and I think at the time it was like this takes place in 2006, and we know this series
Ah,
takes place in 1991, so that's like 15 years.
okay. Yeah.
So, not to mention,
Yeah.
I do think there should be like I don't feel like you want to go right up to that point, because then it becomes like, well, that's Patrick Gibson killing the choir teacher, and then we see Michael C. Hall killing the choir teacher.
No,
So
I
suddenly
think
it's like,
I think it would just be cool if like like the final season of Original Sin ended up with him like finding out about the choir teacher, and then Michael C. Hall's inner monologue was like, and it looks like I had a new playmate. And that's
yeah,
like the end of that'd be so I would love that.
finding little ways to connect, like the connective tissue between these series, I think is ultimately a good idea. So
Yeah.
yeah, as long as you can continue to do that without doing anything that's too distracting from like the sudden shift in
Sure.
like actors and whatever,
Yeah.
I'm all for. But I
Yeah.
think they were really smart about it with Original Sin, and I think a season 2 is probably an inevitability at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope they're looking for opportunities in Resurrection to like kind of like harken back to things specifically from Original Sin, because they now have this new playground of source material to like
Yeah.
pull from. So man, I'm really excited. It sucks that like no new Original Sin next week, but like we're now
Yeah.
on the countdown. 4 months and counting until probably 4 months and counting until
Mm-hmm.
Resurrection airs, and then it's and by that time we'll probably have the confirmation of season 2 for Original Sin, and
Right.
the cycle continues. But
Do
I'm
you-
here for it.
Do you think if we're gonna get confirmation for season 2, like would it make sense to get it in the next week?
I think so. I think they might just be waiting for the dust to kind of settle on the finale, just to make sure everything is what they think. And yeah, and I honestly think whenever they decide it's time to show a little bit more of Resurrection, maybe that's when they're saving the renewal for, because they released the kind of first teaser trailer for Resurrection on the day Original Sin aired. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, we've got some big Dexter news today. Here's the first trailer for Resurrection, and by the way, we've greenlit season 2 of Original Sin.
Right.
But at the same time, I think they probably want to keep the momentum here. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if they're filming Original Sin season 2 before Resurrection even airs. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, and if that was the case, yeah, we're gonna find out about it sooner rather than later. So I wouldn't be surprised within a week or two that we get that confirmation.
Okay.
I think that it'll be telling what happens this week, because right now it's the weekend. Obviously,
Yeah.
episode aired yesterday.
Yeah.
And they don't usually drop news on the weekends, but who knows? Anything could happen on this week, so
Okay.
we'll see.
Okay. Well, what we do have now, we have to wait a while for Resurrection, but what we do have, I think, right now, is Yellow Jackets season 3.
Yep, episode 1 aired yesterday as well.
Oh,
I have
my
not. I have
God.
not watched it. I have not watched
Okay.
it yet. In fact, I'm trying to, because my wife has never watched it, but she's like, she knows she'd like it, but she's
Yeah.
also she's famously very slow at watching shows. She doesn't watch them at the pace that I watch them.
Right.
And
Okay.
Dexter is the only exception, because I make her watch it with me.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if I want to like wait for her to like catch up, because that could be a fucking long time.
Right.
But I also feel like I would benefit from rewatching. So
Yes. Yeah. I definitely need to do a season 2 recap at the very least.
yeah.
And maybe that'll just take form of like a YouTube video or something. But let me know pretty soon what you want to do, because you could certainly join us for Yellow Jackets if you wanted to, because I
Cool.
think we're gonna do the same thing where we watch like 2 episodes and then do
Yeah.
like a video on it. So
I'll try to figure out what my game plan is for Yellow Jackets here pretty soon. At the
Okay.
very least, maybe I can commit to being like, I can maybe be on the finale. Like I can commit
Sure.
to being finished with it by the time everybody else is finished with it, even if
Yeah.
I'm not watching it week to week to week.
yeah.
But I'll let you know.
Okay. Okay, cool. Well, this has been such a ride, Nick. This has been like so good. Because you came on for like the finale of New Blood, or so. Were we doing this during New Blood, or was it
I think the first thing we ever did together was Last of Us.
Last of Us? Okay, yeah. So yeah, this has been so cool to like experience this with you and like talk back and forth with you over like text or DMs or whatever, and just kind of be like, oh my God, like this thing happened. It was so much fun to experience it with somebody.
I will always happily take anyone who wants to talk like deep dive Dexter with me. So yeah,
awesome.
It's been a pleasure.
Very cool. We'll have to hang out with Dexter Unwrapped on their podcast sometime.
That would be fun. And we're gonna have plenty of opportunities. Resurrection's right around the corner.
Oh my God.
So
There's
good.
so much Dexter. All right, everyone. Well, we are going to take a page from Dexter's playbook and wrap it up there. Be sure to check out the Dexter Daily and the 4-Player Podcast and Dexter Unwrapped using the links in the description. You'll also find links to our socials and Patreon down there where you can reach out and chat with us. And also by doing so, you can watch these episodes live as we record them and chat with us live, and we will answer any questions you have or whatever. And you'll get the episode weeks ahead of when YouTube does. Sorry, I'm totally butchering this outro. You can also comment down below to join in on the discussion. I personally read all of the comments and try to respond to all of them, so love chatting with you guys down there. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks so much for being a part of this whole season of Dexter Original Sin. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you guys and chatting about our favorite show ever. And we will see you soon for the 3rd season of Yellow Jackets.
Hell yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Peace.